Then I went to Douluo. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 551, Microscopic Hyaline Mark. Concentrate your attention, activate the purple demon eye to absorb the purple air. I'm going to speed up. Tang Liu put his palm on Daiyun's shoulder, and said while looking at the white sky in the east. Daiyun had activated the purple demon eye as soon as he saw the sky in the east, ready to absorb the purple air that was about to appear. With his nerves tense, he did not answer Tang Liu, but just stared at the sky. The next moment, with the appearance of the first beam of sunlight, Daiyun also saw the appearance of the purple air at the same time. The purple demon eye subconsciously used it and began to absorb the purple air. And then, something that shocked Daiyun happened. With the corner of his eyes, he saw that the scene around them was changing rapidly. Just now it was an endless ocean, and the next second it was replaced by a snow-capped peak, and the scene on the peak did not appear for long before it immediately turned into grassland. Various landforms kept flashing in the field of vision of the corner of his eyes, and the ocean appeared most of the time. But the only thing that remained unchanged was the eastern sky he was staring at closely, and the purple air that never disappeared. What kind of heaven-defying method is this? Daiyun felt the purple air that was constantly being absorbed into his eyes, and his mind went blank. Tang Liu's palm kept pressing on Daiyun's shoulder, constantly activating the Hyaline teleport, so that they could keep chasing the twilight line, so that Daiyun could continuously absorb the purple air and strengthen the purple extreme demon pupil. Of course, if it was just to activate the Hyaline teleport, Tang Liu could do it with a thought. The reason why he kept pressing on Daiyun's shoulder was to control the light when the Hyaline teleport was activated to prevent it from blocking Daiyun from absorbing the purple air. As for why Tang Liu could teleport throughout the entire Douluo star and even keep up with the twilight line, it was related to the advanced use of the Hyaline mark. The function of the Hyaline mark is to mark, through direct or indirect contact with the skin, leaving a Hyaline mark in a target's body that cannot be detected and cannot be erased by external forces, and can only be removed by Tang Liu actively. With the help of the Hyaline mark, Tang Liu can do many things. For example, launch Hyaline transmission, control the marked target, and remotely transfer energy and matter. The so-called advanced use of the Hyaline mark is not to enhance the ability of the Hyaline mark. It is an extension of the marked object. At the beginning, Tang Liu could only leave a Hyaline mark on a living being, that is, a person, an animal, or a plant, etc., and an object, that is, a stone or something like that. And because in cognition, these ones are all complete wholes, naturally, Tang Liu can only leave a Hyaline mark in a whole. But there is one very important thing. The things listed above are actually composed of tiny monomers one after another. So what will happen if Tang Liu regards these monomers as a whole and leaves a Hyaline mark on them? Countless tiny units will become Tang Liu's marking objects, influenced by him and controlled by him. Among a series of tiny units, the level that Tang Liu can currently reach is atoms. The most abundant substance on a planet is atoms. As long as Tang Liu is willing, he can mark the atoms in the surrounding air in an instant. And the air will circulate, and it will circulate continuously throughout the Douluo star. Some of it will go far away with the wind, some will be absorbed and used by plants to produce nutrients, and some will be inhaled by animals and become part of their bodies. So in theory, as long as there is enough time, the matter on the entire Douluo star will eventually be occupied by Tang Liu's Hyaline mark, and then controlled by him. For 10,000 years, Tang Liu's Hyaline mark has long been spread in the global atmosphere. Naturally, at this time he can catch up with the morning and evening line and ignore the soul power consumption of Hyaline transmission. Because every transmission is within the low soul power consumption range of the Hyaline mark, thus completing the miracle in Daiyun's eyes now. A day later, Tang Liu and Daiyun returned to Haoshan Castle. Tang Liu said that he would take Daiyun to practice for a day, and he really took him to practice for a whole day. Daiyun's purple extreme demon eye also successfully went from the overall view to the subtle realm. The first time he returned to Haoshan sect, Daiyun rushed to the cafeteria. After practicing non-stop for a whole day, he felt very hungry and urgently needed energy. Fortunately, when practicing the purple demon pupil, his eyes could be nourished by the purple energy, so even if he didn't blink for a whole day, Daiyun didn't feel uncomfortable now. Of course, The continuous absorption of purple energy also made him feel very comfortable, and his mental strength increased a lot, and he gained a lot. Even without rest, he felt 100 times more energetic at this time. After filling his stomach, Tang Liu began to teach Daiyuns the remaining Tang Sect's unique skills. Letting Daiyuns learn the Tang Sect's unique skills is not to improve his strength, but just to let him keep a souvenir since he has come to this world. Moreover, Daiyuns has not joined the Tang Sect after all, and it is not convenient for him to use the Tang Sect's unique skills in front of others, otherwise it will only cause disputes. But I believe Daiyuns himself knows this, so Tang Liu taught him what he knows without reservation. Then, it was the last thing to be completed for Daiyuns' trip. Contract with the Emperor Golden Tiger to obtain the 5th soul ring of the second martial soul, the god-devouring evil eye white demon tiger. Unlike King Gaia, the Emperor Golden Tiger, or Jin Chen, only has a contractual relationship with Daiyuns and is responsible for providing Daiyuns with the soul rings and soul bones he needs. Apart from that, he will not be summoned by Daiyuns at any time and has greater freedom. This is not because Tang Liu is partial to Jin Chen, because King Gaia originally needed to follow Daiyuns and grow up with him. Although Jin Chen is also a tiger-type soul beast, and an Emperor Golden Tiger with extreme power attributes, it is not particularly suitable for the attributes of Daiyuns' second martial soul, unlike King Gaia, who is completely compatible. Therefore, Jin Chen will not grow further by following Daiyuns, so it is better to let him continue to develop feelings with Funi. King Gaia was once just a 10,000-year-old dark demon evil god tiger. After being rescued by Tang Liu and reshaped his body and resurrected, he successfully cultivated into 200,000-year-old beast in these 10,000 years and was able to transform freely. The first soul ring that Tang Liu borrowed from him had a lifespan of 200,000 years. With the power of Howland's spell, Daiyuns completely absorbed it and turned it into the first soul ring of the god-eating evil eye white demon tiger. After the contract was signed, King Gaia provided Daiyuns with 2 soul rings again, each with a lifespan of 200,000 years. In addition, he also provided Daiyuns with 2 arm soul bones. These 2 soul rings and 2 soul bones were transformed by the power of the contract and had no effect on King Gaia himself. Specifically, it was equivalent to the contract omitting Tang Liu's borrowing rings and borrowing bones, and directly allowing part of King Gaia's power to transform into soul rings and soul bones on Daiyuns. It was very strange and very simple. Chapter 552 Key. Similarly, after signing a contract with the Emperor Golden Tiger Jin Chen, Daiyuns also obtained 2 soul rings again, allowing his cultivation to break through the 50 level, and at the age of nearly 13, he entered the level of Soul King. Jin Chen was originally a 200,000-year-old Emperor Golden Tiger, close to 300,000 years old. 10,000 years ago, when he first met Tang Liu, he was not far from the 3rd heavenly tribulation. But with the help of Tang Liu, he not only successfully survived the heavenly tribulation and became a 300,000-year-old soul beast, but also when he signed a contract with Daiyuns, his cultivation jumped again and reached the level of 400,000 years. With the extreme power attribute of 400,000 years, the Emperor Golden Tiger at this time is no worse than the Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion, and the 2 soul rings given to Daiyuns are also 400,000 years of level. After signing a contract with Daiyuns, Jin Chen hurriedly went to survive the tribulation with Tang Liu. Daiyuns didn't know why Tang Liu accompanied Jin Chen to survive the heavenly tribulation, but considering the other party's unfathomable ability, he thought there should be some means to affect the power of the heavenly tribulation, so that Jin Chen could survive it 100%. Of course, Daiyuns has no time to think about these things now. He is getting familiar with the series of new abilities he has obtained. Although the 4 soul rings newly added to the second martial soul are more than 200,000 years old, they are now more like skins with a 100,000-year soul ring. For Daiyuns, they are still only at the level of a 10,000-year soul ring. After all, with his own physical fitness, he can't bear 4 100,000-year soul rings. Although the first soul ring was completely absorbed, it was with the help of Tang Liu, and that one was already Daiyuns' limit. The 4 newly acquired 100,000-year soul rings are only the power of the maximum soul ring that Daiyuns can currently bear. The excess power is still in King Gaia and Jin Chen's body. It will be gradually absorbed by him as Daiyuns' cultivation improves, and there is no hidden danger of being blown up. And because it is an equal contract, no matter who cultivates, the cultivation of the others will also rise. In addition, There is still an energy core of the dark demon evil god tiger in Dai Yun's body that has not been fully absorbed, so even if Dai Yun's cultivation reaches level 96 in the future, the speed of cultivation will not slow down. Jin Chen alone is comparable to title Douluo of level 98. After the devouring god evil eye white demon tiger obtained 400,000 year spirit rings, the power it can exert has completely surpassed the spirit eye. However, this is also good for what Dai Yun's is going to do next. In the next place he will definitely use a lot of the power of the devouring god evil eye white demon tiger. The spirit eye may not play a big role in the next period of time. After all, he is a pure strong attack spirit master. Whether it is the spirit eye or the devouring god evil eye white demon tiger, they all take the path of strong attack. Then relatively speaking, the attack power of the spirit eye is naturally not as good as that of the devouring god evil eye white demon tiger. After getting familiar with the new power, Dai Yun's also has a new estimate of his current strength. Although he is only a soul king now, even if he meets a soul saint, he has the confidence to completely crush the opponent. Of course, it is not the newly acquired spirit ring spirit skills that he relies on, but the 2 arm bones given to him by the dark demon evil god tiger King Gaia. Since it was from the dark demon evil god tiger, his talents related to the dark demon evil god tiger were also improved again, especially devouring. But devouring is his talent, not a soul skill brought by any soul bone. All the soul skills of the 2 arm bones he obtained are exactly the same. Suppression. Without a specific experimental subject, Dai Yun's did not know what the effect of this soul skill would be, but according to King Gaia's explanation, this suppressing soul skill is just like its name. Suppressing the martial soul, suppressing the soul power. It sounds very scary. Once a soul master loses his martial soul and soul power, he becomes no different from an ordinary person. Even a titled Douluo can be easily killed by a soul master with only 1 ring. But in order to fully exert the effect of this soul skill, Dai Yun's must touch the object he wants to suppress with both hands, otherwise the suppression effect will not be established. And whether it can be effective on soul masters whose soul power far exceeds his is also an unknown, and Dai Yun's needs to constantly verify it. Now there are only King Gaia, Jin Chen, and Tang Liu in the Haoshan sect, and no one who can practice with Dai Yun's. King Gaia and Jin Chen have a contractual relationship with Dai Yun's, so all the power in Dai Yun's has no effect on them. As for Tang Liu, Dai Yun's felt that he might be out of luck before he even got close to him, and he didn't intend to ask for trouble. So, when he realized that he could no longer continue to improve his strength in the Haoshan sect, he knew it was time to leave and go to the next place. At this point in time, Ho Yu Hao should have started to implement a plan of the extreme single soldier, and Shrek would train him with all its strength for 2 years, and then go to the Sun and Moon Royal Soul Instructor Academy for exchange studies. And Mu Lao, in about a year, will reach the end of his life, merge into the Golden Tree, and choose to coexist with a Golden Tree. Although Dai Yun's tried to stop him, Mu Lao still made his own choice, choosing to hurt his origin in the battle with the evil Soul Master, as in the original plot. Dai Yun's could not interfere with other people's decisions, so in the end, he could only help Mu Lao solve one more evil Soul Master at the title Douluo level. After thinking it through, Dai Yun's decided to bid farewell to the Haoshan sect. He finally stayed in Haoshan sect for 3 days to consolidate his new power, and then said goodbye to Tang Liu and Jin Chen. King Gaia would leave with Dai Yun's, but at this time he was not with Dai Yun's, but lived in Dai Yun's Danshan by virtue of the contract. Dai Yun's found it difficult to understand at first, but after Tang Liu explained, he understood. Just like a cultivator would have a life-defining magic weapon, and the life-defining magic weapon could be stored in the Danshan for warming and strengthening, King Gaia could also enter Dai Yun's Danshan to speed up the practice. Although the Danshan is an acupuncture point on the human body, once it is practiced, it will spontaneously open up into a special space. For soul masters, the Danshan is a space for storing soul power. For example, the strange blue-black world that Dai Yun's had visited before was actually a special space formed by the combination of Tang Liu's Danshan and the field of Haolan magic, so it was not so strange that King Gaia could enter Dai Yun's Danshan. Since signing the contract with Dai Yun's, King Gaia seemed to have gained some enlightenment, and would enter the state of cultivation from time to time. In order not to be affected, King Gaia entered the Danshan space. When he was about to leave, Tang Liu pointed his finger at Dai Yun's, and a white jade-like, crystal-clear finger joint flew out of Dai Yun's storage soul guide. He looked at Dai Yun's and said, The task of asking you to help me find the 5 bones still exists, but now I should say that I am asking for your help. You have now found the left hand among the 5 bones, and you still need the right hand, legs, and head. Come on, I am counting on you, left hand. Dai-Yun's looked at the finger joint floating in front of him. It was indeed the finger bones of the left hand, but now it was just a finger bone. But from what Tang Liu said, the bones he was looking for should be complete, so why did he say that he had found the bones of the left hand? These 5 bones are damaged to varying degrees, so you can only see parts of them. When I completely repair them, you will be able to see a complete left hand bone. Tang Liu saw Dai-Yun's confusion and explained. What is the use of collecting them? Dai-Yun asked. This knuckle seems to have a soul skill that can kill anyone who touches it. It's very strong. Is it the same for the other knuckles? Are they collected just to absorb and obtain the soul skills they carry? No, Tang Liu shook his head. The ability to kill anyone who touches it is just the ability of this left-hand bone. It can be regarded as a bonus effect. Their real use is more than that. What is it? Tang Liu smiled. It's a key. Dai-Yun's. Oh? Guess how Dai-Yun's suppression skills will be used? I only have enough time to write 2 chapters today, one for today and one for yesterday. I'm sorry. I have to do experiments in the morning and analytical chemistry in the afternoon tomorrow. I may not have time to write again. I have to ask for leave. The author can only try to write as much as possible so that I can update one more chapter on Saturday. Tonight, I have to make up for the lab report for tomorrow morning. I feel like life is hopeless. And there are exams waiting for me. Thank you to the friends who voted for recommendations and monthly tickets. See you tomorrow. QWQ. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 553 Numenon Sect. The Body Sect is an extremely mysterious soul master sect on the Douluo continent. Most soul masters have heard of the name of this sect, because it was the culprit that caused the last beast-tide riot in the Starred Out Great Forest. The soul masters who know the existence of the Body Sect only know that the members of the Body Sect all have the body martial soul, and that the location of their sect is a natural moat that is easy to defend and difficult to attack. But no one has ever known where the Body Sect is. Flying in the air, Dai-Yun's headed northwest at high speed. His next destination is the Body Sect, where he will obtain the secret method of the second awakening of the body martial soul and further improve his strength. Before leaving the Haoshan sect, Dai-Yun's learned the address of the Body Sect from Tang Liu. 10,000 years ago, the Body Sect was also in the territory of the Xingluo Empire, but after the merger of the Sun and Moon continent and the Douluo continent, the situation was turbulent, and the Xingluo Empire not only changed its owner, but the borderline was no longer the same as it was 10,000 years ago. So now, the Body Sect is in the territory of the Heavenly Soul Empire. This also explains why the Body Sect supports the Heavenly Soul Empire so much in the later part of Douluo. Shrek Academy is also located in the territory of the Heavenly Soul Empire. Dai-Yun's had just left there not long ago, and now he has to rush back. When Dai-Yun's knew this, he was quite sad, although the Body Sect and Shrek Academy were also far apart. Dai-Yun's thought that his journey would not be so smooth, but he did not expect that trouble would come so quickly. He has never removed the special coordinates left by the evil soul master on him. When he was in the Haoshan sect, there was the protection of Tang Liu's power, so it would not be sensed by the evil soul masters. But now, he has been away from the Haoshan sect for a long time, and it is only a matter of time before those evil soul masters come to him. In the sky, the dragon wings behind Dai-Yun's moved slightly, allowing him to hover at this height. All around, there were almost evil soul masters with evil spirits all over their bodies, and without exception, their cultivation was above the soul saint. Especially the 2 old men in front of him, the momentum they exuded was quite terrifying. Undoubtedly, these must be 2 evil soul masters at the title Douluo level. The Holy Spirit Church was really generous. In order to catch him, they sent more and more evil Douluo. King Gaia's voice sounded in his mind. Do you need me to kill them? Although King Gaia has only been practicing for 200,000 years, he is least afraid of evil soul masters. Third Elder, you don't have to do anything. You are my trump card. You can't be exposed now, Dai-Yun's replied. King Gaia was silent for a while and said, "Just call me King Gaia. That's my name." Daiyun's didn't reply for the time being. He looked at the two old men in front of him and said, "Why are you stopping me here?" The two old men, one with a smile on his face, and the other with a gloomy face, looked very difficult to get along with. The smiling one said, "Holy Son, we are here to welcome you and go home with us." Daiyun's pretended to see their identities and said with a vigilant face, "Are you evil soul masters?" The smiling old man said, "We are all family." Very good. It's the same two sentences over and over again. And Daiyun's is a little tired of hearing them. So he stopped talking nonsense and flashed in the air, trying to escape as soon as possible. The two old men took action at the same time. After releasing their martial spirits, the might of the title Douluo pressed towards Daiyun's, trying to restrict his movements. In response, Daiyun's response was very simple. He released his second martial spirit. Once the aura of extreme evil was revealed, even the title Douluo would be affected. When the two old men paused, he used the power of space to quickly teleport away. There was a strange sound not far away. It turned out that an evil soul saint who was blocking the way had his neck twisted by Daiyun's, who appeared out of thin air. He died instantly and his body fell downwards. Daiyun's flashed again and left the side of the evil soul masters in a few seconds. The smiling old man's eyes flashed with strange colors. Although Daiyun's was very fast, he still saw the light of the soul rings that appeared around him when Daiyun's released his martial spirit. They were all blood red. Even though he knew that the other party was the holy son that the leader had specifically asked for, the old man's heart was still inevitably filled with greed. The greed was so intense that he even gave up thinking about why a young boy could absorb so many 100,000-year soul rings at the same time. "Keep chasing." The old man gave the order and flew with many evil soul masters in the direction where Daiyun's disappeared. A few days later, Daiyun's passed through the grassland, crossed a canyon, and came to a forest. In the depths of the forest, there was a towering mountain, and lightning flashed in the sky, making the peak even more dangerous. And on top of the peak was the location of the body sect. Since Li signed contracts with King Gaia and Jinshin one after another, his talents have been greatly improved. First of all, the most obvious improvement is the distance of space transmission, which has increased from 5 meters to 10 meters. This is why he can easily get rid of a large number of evil soul masters. In addition, the dark demon evil god tiger's left and right arm bones were also very powerful in suppressing soul skills, which could instantly turn the evil soul saint he came into contact with into an ordinary person, allowing him to easily break a soul saint's neck and immediately escape from the encirclement of evil soul masters. The location of the body sect was indeed peculiar. According to Tang Liu, this place had the effect of concealing the secrets of heaven because of the blessed land. So when he stepped into this area, the evil soul masters chasing him could no longer find him. Daiyun's looked at the mountain in the distance, and after determining the direction, he quickly ran towards it. In an unfamiliar forest, since it was unknown whether there were soul beasts living in it, it was better not to fly over it. Half an hour later, Daiyun's arrived at the foot of the peak, and then spent another half an hour to arrive in front of an ancient and majestic gate. The plaque on the door was engraved with 3 large characters. Body sect. Daiyun squinted at the plaque, feeling the unusually active pressure of heaven and earth here. Suddenly, with a creak, the door in front of him slowly opened, but Daiyun's did not see the person who opened the door for him, as if the door could automatically sense the arrival of a visitor. Daiyun's paused, but still walked in. The moment he stepped over the threshold, the door slowly closed again, and finally made a muffled sound. The site was an unusually wide martial arts training ground, which looked extremely deserted at this time, with no one in sight. Daiyun's walked towards the tallest building, while curiously looking around. But to get to the tallest building, he had to pass through the center of the martial arts training ground. When Daiyun stepped into the special formation pattern in the center of the martial arts training ground, a strange soul power light quickly rose, trapping him in the formation pattern in the center of the field. An unknown voice sounded behind him, with a little excitement in the tone that Daiyun's could not quite understand. "The new junior brother has been tricked into entering the martial arts arena. Quick, quick, brothers, charge. It's been a long time since I met a junior brother who took the initiative to enter the martial arts arena. Everyone, go and beat him up, otherwise there will be no chance in the future." A howling sound came from behind, and it seemed that there was a wave of soul power attacking him. In response, Daiyun's turned around immediately and released his second martial soul. The extremely dangerous aura of the 100,000-year soul beast spread across the martial arts arena. Looking at the 5 bloodlights on the man in the formation pattern, the martial arts arena, which was originally noisy, suddenly became silent. Chapter 554, The Unique Style of the Body Sect. Dai Yuns looked at the many teenagers who suddenly braked around him. It seemed that many people were pouring out of the surrounding buildings and rushing towards him. However, after seeing the 500,000-year soul rings on his body, those people also suddenly braked and stopped in place. But just because they could stop, it didn't mean that some of the guys who rushed out later could stop. So, Dai Yun saw a weird scene of dominoes falling down. Watching those teenagers fall down one by one with ouch, ouch, and finally only 2 or 3 could still stand, Dai Yun's could only. A green light flashed, and the figure of an old man suddenly appeared in front of Dai Yun's, breaking the soul power light that trapped him. The other party looked at him with a strange expression, and there was a tea leaf stuck at the corner of his mouth, as if he had sprayed out the tea he drank in his mouth not long ago. The old man's face was as ruddy as a baby, with long green hair on his head, but he was a little bald. At this time, looking at the 500,000-year soul rings around Dai Yun's, his expression was indescribable. Dai Yuns had seen this old man not long ago. He was the main body master Du Bu-Si. At this moment, Dai Yuns also knew that there might be a misunderstanding that he didn't know about before, so he put away his second martial spirit, bowed slightly to the old man in front of him, and said, "Hello, Senior." Du Bu-Si opened his mouth, as if he wanted to say something, but in the end he just had a toothache expression on his face, turned around and looked at the disciples who had fallen around, and shouted, "Hurry up and get up, do what you need to do, and disperse." Many young people hurriedly got up from the ground and retreated to the surrounding buildings, returning to where they came from. Du Bu-Si waved his hand again and called a red-haired young man over, Hanyu. The red-haired young man who was called was over 185 centimeters tall, with broad shoulders and back, and bulging muscles. He ran over and looked at Du Bu-Si respectfully and said, "Master, what do you want?" Du Bu-Si ignored him, but looked at Dai Yuns with a toothache and said, "Come to the main hall to see me." After that, the whole person disappeared in a green light again. It can be said that he came and went quickly. Dai Yuns looked at the red-haired young man next to him. To be honest, the young man didn't look much older than him, but his figure didn't look like he was only about 15 years old. Among the people Dai Yuns had seen, only He Tao could compare with him. However, the other party's skin was extremely white, as crystal clear as white jade, and it seemed that he could still see the light flowing faintly, which obviously showed that his cultivation was not weak. Dai Yuns looked at him, and he was also looking at him. After noticing Dai Yuns' somewhat confused expression, the young man smiled slightly. His face was originally extremely cold, but now it seemed as if ice and snow had melted. He said, "Hello, my name is Long Hanyu. The sect master probably wants me to take you to the main hall to find him. Come with me." He acted very friendly. "By the way, what's your name? Are you a new disciple?" Dai Yuns couldn't quite understand the other party's somewhat excited tone when he said the last sentence, but he didn't show it, and replied, "My name is Dai Yuns, indeed." A new disciple. He hesitated for a second, and decided to accept the identity of the new disciple of the body sect. After all, his purpose was to come here to learn the secret method of the second awakening of the body martial soul, so it was not wrong to say that he joined the body sect after hearing his confirmation. Long Hanayu's face actually showed some joy. "Great. I will take you to find the sect master now, come with me." After he finished speaking, he walked quickly in one direction, which was the tallest building that Dai Yuns had planned to go to earlier. Dai Yuns followed Long Hanayu without hesitation, and looked around at the disciples of the Benti sect who were clinging to the edges of doors and windows, looking at him secretly. After a while, he couldn't help but ask, "Brother Long, what happened just now? Why did they all suddenly look like they were going to rush over to beat him up?" Long Hanayu laughed, but it sounded a bit bitter to Dai Yuns. He explained to Dai Yuns, "Actually, that was our Benti sect's welcome ceremony." "Welcome ceremony?" Dai Yuns was stunned. "Which sect's welcome ceremony looks like this? Did they all rush over to beat up the newcomers, or was it a group fight? Was it unique to the Benti sect?" Seeing the strange expression on Dai Yuns' face, Long Hanayu continued to explain, "Recently, there are fewer and fewer soul masters who have awakened their martial souls. We haven't recruited new disciples in a long time. In the past, We would hide on the day when a new disciple joined the sect to see what the new disciple would do. If he happened to walk into the competition formation, other disciples could challenge the new disciple. This time, it must be because everyone hasn't seen a new disciple for a long time, so the reaction was a little bigger. When there were more disciples in the past, everyone didn't hide as secretly as they did today. Daiyuns, it seems that they just want to trick the new disciples? What kind of sect is this body sect? Daiyuns thought about it and asked, why do you have to compete with the new disciples? Aren't the newly recruited disciples supposed to be soul masters whose martial souls have just awakened not long ago? Will you really not discourage newbies by treating them like this? Long Hanayu said, because the newly awakened disciples are either the younger generation born in the sect, or the disciples brought back from outside by the sect master and elders. Everyone has no chance to spar with such disciples. Only disciples like me who climbed the mountain and walked into the sect on their own will have such a welcome ceremony. Daiyuns, so he ran into the gun himself, right? Long Hanayu continued, the reason why there is the challenge of the competition array is actually because it was left by an ancestor of the sect a long time ago. The ancestor hoped that the main body sect would prosper, so he set up a new disciple to step into it. We can challenge him. If we lose to the new disciple, we can get a very good reward from the array pattern. Daiyuns listened and couldn't help but slowly typed a question mark, so everyone was so excited just now, just to challenge me, and then, lose to me. Long Hanayu nodded in affirmation. No one has triggered that competition array for more than 10 years. What kind of stupid setting is this? Daiyuns felt powerless to complain, so he asked casually, what if the new disciple didn't step on the competition array? In his guess, many people would come out of their hiding places with regrets, and then take the new disciple to see the master. As a result, Long Hanayu told him seriously, even if we have to drag him in, we will drag him in. Daiyuns, is this what a human being does? What did the new disciple do wrong that you treat him like this? Chapter 555, The First Soul Master, Spiritual Emperor Heavenly Art. Daiyuns thought speechlessly, if he had not passed by the competition array just now, and did not have 500,000-year spirit rings that were enough to suppress the disciples of the body sect, would he have been dragged into the competition array now? Long Hanayu had a regretful expression on his face. If the new disciples walked into the competition array without knowing it, then after admitting defeat, we may not only get a spirit bone, but also directly awaken the body martial spirit for the second time. But if the new disciples were dragged in, the reward would not be so good. After hearing this, Daiyuns finally understood why the disciples of the body sect were so excited before. However, he still asked in confusion, the reward of the competition array can also give spirit bones. Is the body sect so rich? Long Hanayu, it's just a chance. Most of the time, it directly improves the disciple's soul power by 3 to 5 levels, or gives some natural treasures or elixirs to strengthen the foundation. As for soul bones, it is said that only a handful of disciples have obtained them so far. The more Daiyuns listened, the more familiar the setting sounded. But he couldn't remember it for a moment, but he just felt that this thing shouldn't appear in a world like Douluo continent. The two chatted and walked to the front of the tallest building. Long Hanayu led Daiyuns into the gate of the building. Daiyuns felt that the eyes that had been falling on him disappeared because of the obstruction. By the way, I haven't asked how old you are this year? You have already reached the level of Soul King, Long Hanayu said. Daiyuns glanced at him and felt that the other party didn't seem surprised that he had 500,000-year spirit rings. I am 12 years old this year, and I will be 13 in a few months. Long Hanayu was surprised and said, Junior brother's talent is really amazing. No wonder he can absorb 100,000-year spirit rings now. Oh, what is Junior brother's martial soul? My martial soul is eyes. Long Hanayu's eyes lit up, so it's eyes, and it's a top-level martial soul. There are really many geniuses in our sect this year. Daiyuns was also curious about Long Hanayu's martial soul, so he asked, what is Senior brother's martial soul, and what level is your soul power now? Speaking of martial soul, Long Hanayu's expression became a little proud. My martial soul is skin, and it is now level 57. This year I should be able to break through to level 60, obtain spirit rings and become a soul emperor. Skin. Daiyuns' expression became a little weird, and the Hall of Thought quickly presented the relevant information in front of him like a page of paper. In the original novel, there is a character whose martial soul is a skin. Hou Hao met this person when he participated in the Sun Moon Empire's All-Continent Advanced Soul Master Academy Soul Fighting Competition. But how could he remember that person's name? At this time, they also came to the so-called hall and saw Du Buxi sitting on the first seat. Long Hanyu respectfully called Sect Master, winked at Dai Yuns, and then retreated. Dai Yuns took 2 steps forward and was about to say something when he heard Du Buxi say, "Hanyu was not called this name before." He looked at Du Buxi holding a teacup and slowly typed a dot. Du Buxi calmly took a sip of tea, and then said, "He used to be called Long Aoshan." Dai Yuns, "Oh my god, it's really him." But later, that senior changed it, saying that Aoshan was too cool, so he changed it to Hanyu. Higher than the sky is universe, and if the entire universe is included in it, it can naturally be Aoshan. Du Buxi was calm and composed, and even showed a little admiration on his face, as if he was saying, as expected of a senior master who gave such a meaningful name. Dai Yuns didn't know what to say for a while. But soon, he seemed to realize something and asked tentatively, "The senior you are talking about?" Du Buxi nodded. "Of course it's the current leader of the Haoshan sect." "What?" Dai Yuns was stunned. "The current leader of the Haoshan sect? Are you talking about Daming and Erming?" "No, the one who changed his name was definitely Tang Liu. But he didn't know that the other party was actually the leader of the Haoshan sect. But then he thought about it again. Jin Chen and Funi, who were close to Tang Liu, and Qingya, who is now living in his danshan, were the 3 elders of the Haoshan sect in the Xingluo Empire. It was natural that Tang Liu was the sect master. Du Buxi's next words also confirmed Dai Yuns's guess. That senior has been in charge of the Haoshan sect for 10,000 years. He is indeed the first soul master in the continent who once fought against the 3 gods. Du Buxi sighed. He seemed to know a lot of things like Mu Lao. Fighting against the 3 gods? At this moment, Dai Yuns regretted not asking Tang Liu what happened 10,000 years ago. He had never asked because he thought it was a social death. But now that he heard about it from others, he was particularly curious. He knew that the original ending of Douluo is that Tang San, who is the dual god of the sea god and the god of Shiro, fought against the god of Rakshasa and the god of angels and won in the end. But now, if Tang Liu had the experience of fighting against the 3 gods, who did he fight against? Considering the other party's current relationship with Tang San, at least one of the 3 gods should be Tang San. Considering that Tang San is a dual god, there must be only 2 of the 3 gods. But even so, it is still quite terrifying. Back then, that senior was just a mortal body, but he was able to fight against 3 gods. Although he was defeated in the end, he also left behind a long-lasting myth and was a well-deserved first soul master. Du Buxi continued. First soul master. If it is true as Du Buxi said, Tang Liu was still just a mortal body at that time, then the title of first soul master is really very appropriate. Dai Yuns remembered at this time that Tang Liu said that he is only level 96 now. Dai Yuns didn't believe it at the time, but now it seems that it should be true. Dai Yuns took a breath of cold air. If it is true, then how strong is his golden finger? Dai Yuns was a little unbalanced in an instant. He thought for a moment and asked, "Then do you know what his title is?" This is what Dai Yuns is most curious about now. Since Tang Liu is a titled Douluo, what exactly is his title? But Du Buxi shook his head and said, "That senior didn't leave any title behind, and no one dared to take the title off his own initiative. Only the name of the senior has been passed down. But nowadays, not many people still remember it. Only we old guys still know it." Dai Yuns asked curiously, "What is it?" "Spiritual Emperor Heavenly Art." Guess what Tang Liu's title is? And when will the author reveal it? Doj, 2 chapters today plus 1 chapter yesterday, a little less. Blushing, "Sorry everyone, but I really don't have enough time in the past few days tat." Thank you to the friends who voted for recommendations and monthly tickets. Thank you to the friends who rewarded. It should be a friend from Kidian. The author can't see the name, but I am still very grateful. See you tomorrow. Chapter 556 Dao Yun. Spiritual Emperor Heavenly Art? Dai Yuns pondered over these 4 words. If this title only represents a top legend on this Douluo continent, then he would definitely think that the meaning of these 4 words is very domineering. The so-called spiritual emperor can be both a compliment to the king and a respectful title to the gods. The religious philosophy of ancient times believed that all things have spirits, whether it is humans at the peak of spiritual intelligence or simple flowers, plants and trees. They say that the heaven and the earth are born with me, and all things are one with me. It is said that all things in the world are born from existence, and existence is born from non-existence. Everything comes from the same origin, and the spiritual emperor is the master of all things. In the first impression of most people, who is the master of all things? It is God, that is, the way of heaven, that is, heaven. The rules of heaven are the techniques and laws that all things will pursue and abide by. The so-called heavenly art is the Tao that countless people have pursued. Spiritual emperor heavenly art, where the Tao is, all the Tao. To call oneself the heaven is indeed ambitious. But Dayans knew that Tang Liu was just a time traveler like himself, so at this time, when he heard this so-called title, he just felt that it was quite second-rate. So why are there two time travelers in the same world? Can they still have fun? If he also made a name for himself in the future and left his own name, his reaction would definitely not be snickering, but embarrassment. The thought that it might be heard by other time travelers, and the other party would read it out seriously, made him feel very unacceptable. Every time Dayans thought of this, he felt annoyed. Fortunately, at this time, Dubusi spoke again, allowing Dayans to come back to his senses from his chaotic thoughts. I know that you came to my body sect this time to awaken your martial soul for the second time. Indeed, my sect has a secret method that can awaken a disciple's martial soul for the second time, but it is not something that can be given out casually. Dubusi looked at Dayans and said. Dayans tried, I can join the body sect. Joining my sect is only one of the conditions. You also need to make enough contributions to the sect before I can teach you the secret method that can make the body spirit awaken again. Dubusi laughed, as if he had finally revealed his true colors. But Dayans didn't care. In the end, he was just trying to see if he could get the secret method, so he just made a contribution. He was going to stay here for a while anyway. So he said, what should I do? Dubusi put down his teacup, stood up, and walked out of the hall with his hands behind his back, saying, just practice in the sect for a while like other disciples. The rest of the arrangements will be the same as those disciples. When the old man walked to the door of the hall, his figure suddenly disappeared. Dayans glanced at the last place where the other person stood before he disappeared, and then walked out of the hall. As soon as he stepped out of the hall, he saw a young man walking towards him, clasped his fists to him, and said, brother, please follow me. I will arrange a temporary place for you to stay. Dayans nodded and said politely, thank you. The young man clasped his hands again. Then turned around and walked in front to lead the way. As he walked, he introduced the situation of the Benben sect to Dayans. Our sect currently has 283 disciples and 8 elders. Junior brother needs to know about several important places in the sect, the Bengtsin Hall for receiving guests, the Benning Hall for refining pills, the Benzi building for managing the sect's miscellaneous affairs, the Benai Pavilion where the sect's ancient books are stored, and the Benwu Pavilion, a forbidden place in the sect except for the Benwu Pavilion, which requires the consent of the sect master. Junior brothers can enter and exit other places at will. The disciples' residences are all in the pavilions on the west side, and the canteen is on the south side of the sect. Food is always available. The most conspicuous building over there is. I have other things to do, so I won't take you there. In addition, if you have any matters to deal with, you can go to the Benben building in the east to find the director to solve it, which is on the right side of the Bengtsin Hall. There are several elders living in the Benning Hall in the north. If you have nothing to do on weekdays, try not to go there. If you need elixirs for cultivation, you can also go to the Benben building to get them. The Benai Pavilion is behind the Bengtsin Hall. You can go in and check the information you need at any time, but you need the consent of the sect master to enter the top floor of the Benai Pavilion. The young man's real name is Chen Su, and he is also a disciple of the body sect. He works as a handyman in the body building. Dayans took advantage of the fact that they had not yet reached their destination to ask Chen Su many things about the body sect. In addition to the important buildings in the body sect that he just learned, Dayans also learned about the current approximate strength of the body sect. Although Chen Su just said that the body sect has 8 elders, only 5 of the 8 elders have cultivation bases above title Douluo, which is much less than the elders of Shrek Seagot Pavilion. Except for the sole sage of the healing department, the other elders of the Seagot Pavilion are all at the title Douluo level, even including the 4 deans and vice deans. In addition to the elders, among the nearly 300 disciples of the body sect, except for 4 soul Douluos, the rest are soul masters to soul sages. Soul sects and below soul sects account for the majority, followed by soul sages, as many as dozens, and finally the disciples with a cultivation base of soul emperors and soul kings. Although the high-end combat power is much worse than that of Shrek, it is also a force that cannot be underestimated. Moreover, considering the special nature of the body martial soul, it is not so strange that the body sect could anger Emperor Yan and launch a beast tide. Chen Su led Dai Yuns to the top floor where the disciples of the sect stayed, and then said goodbye and left. The accommodation is a small room of only 10 square meters for a disciple, but the furniture is quite complete, with wardrobes, tables and chairs, etc., although it looks a bit crowded. After flying in the air for several days in a row, Dai Yuns was a little tired, so he closed the door, took off his shoes and went to bed, and began to meditate to restore his energy. Since Dubusi wanted him to live in the body sect like an ordinary disciple, and exchange his merits for the secret method that could make the body martial soul awaken again, then he would do it. Anyway, he still has plenty of time, so there is no rush. Moreover, with his current strength, without considering Kingaya, it is still quite dangerous to carry 500,000-year soul rings with him. Now, the body sect is like Shrek Academy and the Haoshan sect of the Xingluo Empire. It is a very safe place for him. But if he wanted to exchange merit for the secret method, what should he do? He remembered that because of the last beast tide, the body sect had reached a contract with the world and was not allowed to come out. So how could he get the merit? Tomorrow he would find time to go to the bodybuilding to ask if the body sect had any tasks assigned to the disciples. Also, I wonder if the body sect would have such a thing as early training? With a little curiosity about the life of the sect, Dai Yuns' consciousness gradually immersed in meditation, feeling the soul power that was gradually becoming stronger. It has to be said that since breaking through the Soul King and having 500,000-year soul rings, he can also enter the ranks of the strong ones. Ordinary soul saints also have two choices in front of him, either to escape or to die. The author is still doing experiments, so there's only one chapter today. Sorry. Thank you to the friends who voted for recommendations and monthly tickets. See you tomorrow. I feel more and more that the style of painting has rushed from fantasy to fairy heroes doge. Chapter 557 Vina. On the next day, Dai Yuns woke up from his meditation on time. He opened his eyes, put on his shoes quickly, washed up briefly, and walked out of the door quietly. Without disturbing anyone, he flashed to the roof, concentrated his energy, and looked at the eastern sky. Although the sky was oppressive at the natural ditch where the body sect was located, it was only around this mountain. If you look far away, you can still see the rising sun in the east. Dai Yuns quietly waited for the arrival of the purple air and practiced the purple extreme demon eye. After experiencing a day of continuous absorption of purple air, ordinary practice was not so attractive to Dai Yuns. The fleeting warmth always made him feel as if something was missing, and it was not as refreshing as absorbing it all day. However, in order to improve his spiritual eyes, he was willing to get up early every day to practice. After the sun's light was scattered on the ground, Dai Yuns also finished practicing the purple extreme demon eye, jumped directly from the roof, and walked towards the direction of the cafeteria that Chen Su told him yesterday. Walking in, Dai Yuns found that there were already many disciples of the body sect eating quietly. He was not the only one who got up early. After taking a meal, Dai Yuns was about to find a place to sit down, but he caught a glimpse of someone waving at him. He looked over and found that it was Long Hanyu who took him to see Dubusi yesterday. Dai Yuns walked over, sat down opposite him, and greeted him. "Brother, you got up so early. Is there any morning training in the sect?" He had already started to ask Long Hanyu for information. Long Hanyu shook his head. "I just follow the usual schedule. Our sect does not have too many requirements for disciples, just work hard to practice. If you don't understand, go and ask other brothers or elders. If you need training resources, go to the bodybuilding to get them." Dai Yuns was a little surprised. Doesn't the sect need disciples to perform tasks or something? Resources are given directly like this? Even in Shrek Academy, students still need to go to class. After our body sect announced that it would no longer go out to the world, we rarely let our disciples go out to perform missions. Unless a disciple needs a soul ring breakthrough, we rarely go down a mountain. In the body sect, disciples only need to practice non-stop, Long Hanyu said. Dai Yuns didn't even have the heart to enjoy the food in front of him. What about the soul master's fighting skills? For example, the fusion of soul power and mental power, the compression of soul skills, etc. Don't teachers have systematic teachings? The sect master only believes in the path of actual combat. From time to time, he will hold competitions and martial arts performances in the sect, allowing disciples to experience it in battle on their own. Dai Yun's was silent for 2 seconds. Isn't he afraid of teaching his disciples wrongly if he lets them do whatever they want? He suddenly began to worry deeply, thinking that it was a mistake for him to come to the body sect. As if he saw the tangle on Dai Yun's face, Long Hanyu smiled and said, "Brother, don't worry. Although the atmosphere in our body sect is relaxed, the elders are not really teaching us nothing. Most of the things we need to learn can be found in the books and the Benai Pavilion. In fact, our cultivation does not rely too much on these. Relying on the unique inheritance method of the body sect, every disciple can find the most suitable path for them." Inheritance method. Dai Yun's was a little interested. Long Hanyu nodded and said, "The inheritance of the body sect is in the inheritance seed. Every 5 years, the sect master will open it and give a trial to the disciples of the right age. Every disciple who participates in the trial can learn what he needs from the inheritance seed. If you are predestined enough and get the recognition of the inheritance seed, you can become the successor of the next sect master, so that's it, there is a special inheritance method." Dai Yun's nodded slightly. This also explained why he felt that the teaching method of the body sect was problematic, but the members of the body sect that appeared in the original book were still very powerful. He then asked in detail about the seed of inheritance. This was not a secret that could not be told. Everyone in the body sect knew it. There were no conditions for accepting the inheritance in the seed of inheritance. Anyone with a body martial spirit could participate. Who would be recognized by the seed of inheritance and become the next leader? The two ate and talked, and Dai Yun's learned more and more details about the body sect. For example, the forbidden place Benwu Pavilion. It turned out that no disciple knew where this place was. Long Hanyu had also curiously walked all over the body sect, but he could not find the Benwu Pavilion. Not only him, many disciples of the body sect had done the same thing. It was called a forbidden place, but it could not be found. In this case, the name Benwu was really appropriate. Hanyu. While chatting, Dai Yun suddenly heard a clear female voice behind him, calling Long Hanyu's name. Looking back, he saw a girl with a ponytail, who looked clean, gentle and lovely. She should be about the same age as Long Hanyu. The girl ran over with a meal in her hands and sat down next to Long Hanyu. She looked at Dai Yun curiously and asked, "Hello, are you the new junior brother?" The girl seemed to be very familiar with Long Hanyu. Dai Yun also noticed that after the girl sat down, Long Hanyu's cold cheeks actually rose a little red. Seeing this, Dai Yun also had some guesses about the girl's identity. Long Hanyu coughed lightly and introduced with a smile, "Junior brother, this is Vina. She has been in the sect since she was a child like me." Dai Yun nodded to Vina and said, "Hello, senior sister, my name is Dai Yun." He was not wrong. This girl was really the princess with twin martial spirits from the Xianhan Empire. It seemed that she was Long Hanyu's fiancée. "I just don't know if they have a marriage contract at this time." Vina smiled and said, "Hello, junior brother Dai. I haven't seen you before. Did you join the sect recently?" Dai Yun, "I just arrived at the sect yesterday." Vina looked as if he had suddenly realized something. "No wonder, but our body sect is very good. Junior brother, you just need to treat this place as your home. If you have any difficulties, just come to me." She smiled and said, "And you are lucky, junior brother, you just happened to catch up with the sect's inheritance trial. Maybe you can directly awaken your martial soul for the second time in it." Long Hanyu had also mentioned the time of the body sect's inheritance trial to Dai Yun before. The most recent one will start in 3 months. It is indeed a coincidence. The author has an exam tomorrow and is currently reviewing intensively. I will only write 1 chapter today. Sorry. Thank you to the friends who voted for recommendations and monthly tickets. See you tomorrow. Chapter 558, Sect Life Part 1. Vina, by the way, what is your martial soul? Dai Yun looked at Vina, who was full of curiosity, and pointed to his eyes. "My martial soul is my eyes." After hearing this, Vina's pretty face was a little excited. She said, "What a coincidence, my martial soul is the brain. I didn't expect that my junior brother and I are both spiritual attribute soul masters." "Is your junior brother going the route of a controlled type soul master?" "That's right, Vina not only has twin martial souls, but the original martial soul she possesses is also the brain, which is 1 point higher than the spiritual eye. The importance of the brain is irreplaceable for life, and mental power is born from the brain. In terms of mental power control alone, Hou Hao may not be as good as Vina now. No, I am a strong attack-type battle soul master, Dai Yun shook his head. That's the same as Gu Tong. Both have martial souls and are strong attack-type battle soul masters. But Gu Tong relies on eyes to develop attack power and completely gives up the cultivation of mental power. Dai junior brother, are you the same? Vina asked curiously. Dai Yun's also had some memories of Gu Tong mentioned by Vina. Like himself and Yu Hao, he had an eye spirit. However, Gu Tong's spirit was really eyes, while he and Hou Hao had spiritual eyes. The spirit eye spirit actually had a certain degree of variation, which was related to the evil eye white tiger spirit. Otherwise, he and Hou Hao would not have the feature of double pupils, even though Hou Hao's double pupils had not yet appeared. The slight difference in spirit also led to a difference in the direction of cultivation between them and Gu Tong. The spirit eye was more inclined to mental power, and Dai Yun's chose the path of mental attack. And Gu Tong's eyes, as Vina said, relied on eyes to launch attacks, which was also a very novel path. The direction I chose is still based on mental power, relying on mental power to launch attacks, although Dai Yun's current mental attack skills are not particularly powerful. If anyone dares to underestimate him, it will be a big loss. After hearing Dai Yun's words, Vina's favorability towards him increased a few points. After all, spiritual attribute soul masters are rare. Now she can meet a soul master who is a spiritual body martial soul like her, and who also focuses on cultivating spiritual power. Vina is naturally happy. Of course, it stands to reason that Vina should not have started to add soul rings to her brain martial soul yet, and at most she has only clarified the direction of cultivation. Vina's Snow Lotus martial soul is a healing system. According to Vina's performance in the competition in the original book, her brain martial soul is indeed developing in the direction of a control system soul master. Long Hanyu and Vina later told Dai Yun's about Gu Tong, and said that although the two have different cultivation directions, if Dai Yun's encounters problems in cultivation, he can still go to Gu Tong to ask. After all, their martial souls are similar. It's almost enough to know, so Dai Yun's also took this opportunity to leaving the space to Long Hanyu and Vina, the young couple. After leaving the cafeteria, Dai Yun's really didn't decide where to go for a while. After thinking about it, he still walked towards the original building to see if there were any tasks that needed to be assigned to the disciples to complete. The Benbin building is just to the right of the Banksin Hall, where Dai Yun's met Du Busi yesterday. It is easy to find. When he walked in, Dai Yun's found that the lobby of the Benbin building was like a pawn shop. Disciples like him were stopped outside and had to talk to people in the Benbin building through the spacious window. Through the window, you can see that there are many porcelain bottles, medicinal materials and other things placed inside. Maybe they are items that can be exchanged through some means. There was a young man standing behind the window, coming and going inside to handle affairs for the Benbin sect disciples queuing outside. Dai Yun's happened to know him. It was Chen Su who took him to the accommodation yesterday. There was a small door next to the window. I don't know if it is to enter the lobby of the Benbin building or the passage to the second floor. Dai Yun's walked to the end of the team and stood still, secretly looking at the several Benbin sect disciples in front of him to see what they came here for. However, without exception, the Benbin sect disciples in front of him came to receive elixirs, and the process was quite simple. Report your name and soul power level, say the elixir you need, and let Chen Su register it and you can take it away. Dai Yun's looked at the disciple of the body sect who was running away happily with a porcelain bottle in front of him in silence. This was not the life of the sect he imagined. Was the life of the body sect always harmonious and without conflict? It was Dai Yun's turn. He looked at Chen Su in the window. Chen Su also looked at him calmly. He didn't know if he recognized Dai Yun's. Excuse me, are there any tasks that need disciples to go out to perform? Dai Yun's couldn't help but ask because he was curious. What? The brother behind him poked his head out and looked at him in surprise. Brother, you just got here, right? Our sect stopped assigning tasks to disciples 800 years ago. The Benzi building is now only responsible for distributing cultivation resources, and also helping to resolve emotional disputes and so on. The brother behind him poked his head out from the other side. Yes, the day before yesterday I asked the people from the Benzi building to help me mediate the guy on my dormitory floor. That bastard always dances in the middle of the night, and it makes so much noise that I can't concentrate on meditation. That's right, the mediation ability of the Benzi building is super reliable. I highly recommend it. 1+1 Daiyuns, is this something to be proud of? Please, you are disciples of the top sect, where are the tense intrigues? Where are the love and hatred you lament? Why are you so happy about mediating a nuisance incident? Daiyuns looked at Chen Su in the window with a hard time explaining, but the other party's expression when looking at him was still very calm. Chen Su said, there is no mission, but there is a commission. When he said this, not only Daiyuns, but also a bunch of disciples of the body sect who were not in the right mood at the back became curious. Daiyuns asked, what commission? The soul power of the disciples of the body sect, Chen Yu and Zhang Yixi, reached a bottleneck 5 days ago. They need to obtain the 5th and 4th soul rings respectively. The two are looking for a team to go to the soul beast forest together. Currently, they are short of a strong attack system soul master and a control system soul master. The cultivation must be at least above level 40. The commission was issued by Chen Yu and Zhang Yixi. After the commission is completed, they will provide a reward to all participants. The reward is unknown. Do you need to accept the commission? Chen Su finished the sentence as if reading a script, and then looked at Daiyuns. The other disciples in the queue also heard it. They subconsciously glanced at Daiyuns' overly young face. He looked like he was not even 15 years old. But the commission required a strong attack system or control system soul master above level 40. At Daiyuns' age, I'm afraid he has just broken through the 3rd ring not long ago, right? Even though they are generally older than Daiyuns, some of them are only at level 30 or so. After all, logically speaking, this is the normal speed of soul master cultivation. Not everyone is like the geniuses of Shrek Academy. But the crowd of spectators watched as Daiyuns nodded and accepted the commission. They also watched as Chen Su registered his soul power, and the number 53 slowly appeared on the crystal ball that tested the soul power level. The disciples behind Daiyuns dropped their jaws. Soul King? 12 or 13-year-old Soul King? Are they living in a dream? The author recently revisited My Lord, Spare Me, and the last part of this chapter was written today. The style of writing was unconsciously affected. Doge, after the exam, the author feels that he may need to send, thanks to the friends who voted for recommendations. See you tomorrow. Chapter 559, Ready to Go. It looks like another contestant who is as talented as Senior Brother Long. Maybe he is also a cultivation maniac like Senior Brother Long, the disciples of the body sect behind him whispered. Before this, the disciples of the body sect only knew Long Hanyu, a Soul King at around the age of 12. But even Long Hanyu broke through to the Soul King when he was almost 14 years old. And this was the result of his continuous cultivation day and night. But Daiyuns is completely the opposite. Not only does he have the energy core of the dark demon evil god tiger in his body, which allows his soul power to continue to grow anytime and anywhere, but he also completely merged with a 200,000-year soul ring later, and the excess energy in his body almost filled him up. Even if Daiyuns did not practice at all and just let his body absorb the extra energy on its own, his cultivation level would be able to improve quickly. Not to mention that he now has 2 more contracts with Kingaya and Jinshin. The 2 beasts can practice for a short time, which is equivalent to Daiyuns' several days of hard practice. In short, since he couldn't get the secret method to awaken the martial soul of the original body right away, he was just sitting around doing nothing, so Daiyuns chose to take on this commission. After registering his soul power, martial soul and other information with Chen Su, Daiyuns left the Benben building. The client needed a strong attack spirit master and a control spirit master, and Daiyuns filled the vacant position of the strong attack spirit master. Now he was still short of a control spirit master, so Chen Su asked him to come to the Benben building again in 3 days to meet the team that went out to obtain spirit rings. Even if they didn't get all the people by then, they would still go out to obtain spirit rings. After leaving the Benben building, Daiyuns didn't go back to practice immediately, but wandered around the Benben sect to familiarize himself with the terrain. Of course, he also wanted to try to find the non-existent forbidden area, Benwu Pavilion. Although many disciples of the Benben sect had already searched and confirmed that there was indeed no Benwu Pavilion in the Benben sect, it wouldn't be a problem for him to search again. But as expected, he found nothing. Daiyuns was not discouraged. The Benwu Pavilion was a forbidden place of the body sect. Regardless of whether the pavilion existed or not, Daiyuns would not take the initiative to break the rules. The body sect could be said to have taken him in and was going to teach him the secret method of the second awakening of the body martial soul. He couldn't be ungrateful, could he? Life in the body sect was still a little dull for Dai Yuns. Everyone seemed to have only the word cultivation in their minds, and there were few other disputes. Occasionally, there was a little bit, just like what I heard in front of the Ben building that day. Either a disciple was frustrated in love and couldn't think straight, or someone was dancing in the room late at night to disturb the peace. This style of painting was a little bit wrong. After all, even the way they talked made Dai Yuns feel a weird sense of disobedience. However, after thinking that the body sect might have had a relationship with Tang Liu for a long time, Dai Yuns accepted it instantly. Even though it was ordinary, the atmosphere in the body sect was still very good. Sometimes there were disciples who suddenly became interested in fighting in the arena, but everyone was very careful and stopped at the right time. However, it was precisely such a fight that made Dai Yuns dare not underestimate any of the body sect disciples, even though all of them seemed very Buddhist. You know, a full-strength fight is much simpler than holding back. First of all, the effort required for the two is different. If you fight with all your strength, just let go. In such a real fight, you don't have much chance to think slowly. You rely more on experience and adaptability. The fight that requires holding back is different. You have to consider how to end the game in the most efficient way without hurting your opponent. You must have a very comprehensive understanding of your own strength in order to use every bit of strength in the right place. This requires a lot of energy. According to Dai Yuns' observations in the past few days, all the body sect disciples who went to the competition can do this, which is quite terrifying. If in a real life and death duel, these body sect disciples will be extremely dangerous opponents. During the 3 days, Dai Yuns not only practiced, but also wandered around the Benti sect. If there were any disciples competing, he would go to watch. Occasionally, he would meet Long Hanayu and Vina and chat with them. He had also been to the Benai pavilion where books were stored, but he was not too interested in the books inside. In fact, he went in to familiarize himself with the terrain, just in case. After arriving at the agreed time, Dai Yuns came to the Benai building again. When he saw the Benai building from a distance, there were already several disciples waiting there. After entering, he found that there were a total of 4 people, 3 men and 2 women, but their faces were very young, and there was no sign of the master at all. Dai Yuns couldn't help but look at the disciples in front of him in confusion. Don't they need the company of the master to go out to obtain the spirit ring? Are the elders of the Benti sect so careless? Aren't they afraid that the disciples will die outside? Dai Yuns found that he was getting more and more confused about the Benti sect. He had just accepted an abnormal operation from the other party, and then another abnormal place followed, which was very puzzling. Are their methods of raising children in their consciousness a little different? Dai Yuns, who had no children to raise, had this thought in his mind for the nth time. The young man in the lead of the 4 disciples of the body sect, standing in front of the Benbin building, had a hunchback, and even a high bulge, which looked a bit abnormal. After seeing Dai Yuns, his eyes lit up, and he came forward and said, "Are you junior brother Dai Yuns? The seniority of the body sect is determined by the order of entry regardless of cultivation." So although the 4 people knew that Dai Yuns was already a soul king, there was nothing wrong with calling him junior brother. Dai Yuns just nodded, and before he could say anything, he heard the leading young man say, "My name is Chen Yu, and the one next to me is Yang Yixi, who is the commission we issued to obtain the soul ring." The hunchbacked young man, Chen Yu, pointed to the girl next to him. Jiang Yixi had a beautiful appearance, but she didn't seem to talk much. Noticing Dai Yuns' gaze, she just nodded. Dai Yuns paid more attention to Jiang Yixi's arms, because the other party's arms were quite slender, which should be her martial soul. Chen Yu then introduced the other 2 young men. His name is Wang Yanfeng, a level 45 strong attack system battle soul master. Next to him is senior brother Yu Yuyu, a level 55 control system battle soul king. After listening, Dai Yuns only noticed one thing. In this team that is going out to obtain spirit rings, everyone's cultivation is surprisingly not much different. No one is particularly low, and no one is particularly high. In layman's terms, they are just a group of scum without a big boss to lead them, and they may be wiped out in a minute. Although Dai Yuns doesn't know which soul beast gathering place they will go to obtain soul rings, he also knows that not all places are as dangerous as the several major soul beast gathering places and human restricted areas. But as long as there are soul beasts, Any soul master has the possibility of overturning, not to mention their group of temporary soul masters with the highest cultivation level of only level 55. Dai Yuns fell into deep worry. Should I say that the disciples of the body sect are stubborn, or should I say that Du Buxi is really too careless? A billion points late, sorry, Hei Doge, thank you friends for voting for recommendation. See you tomorrow. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 560 The Purpose. After Chen Yu introduced everyone, Dai Yuns also reported his name and soul power level, and then expressed his doubts. Brother, are there only 5 of us going out to get soul rings this time? After everyone was together, Chen Yu was also ready to lead people to leave. At this time, a group of 5 people walked on the road leaving the body sect and walked to the foot of the mountain. Hearing Dai Yuns' question, Chen Yu also understood where his doubts came from, and replied, generally speaking, only when the sect disciples are below the 3rd ring, will they be accompanied by teachers to get soul rings. Once the cultivation reaches the 4th ring or above, the elders will no longer care about our soul rings. When we reach the bottleneck, we can just form a team to go out. However, if the overall cultivation of the team is relatively low, at least one soul king must lead them. Dai Yuns had only, he was confused at the time. Does the body sect really not care about the life and death of the disciples? Dai Yuns sat up, then said tactfully, aren't the sect leader and elders afraid that we will die outside? Chen Yu, at this time, Yu, who was walking in front, turned around and said with a smile, Junior brother Dai has just joined the sect, so it is normal that he doesn't know our situation. Dai Yuns looked at him and suddenly became curious. Is there any secret that he doesn't know? Yu smiled. Junior brother Dai, what do you think? Why do we form a team when we go out with our spirit rings? Isn't it just to cooperate with each other in the soul beast forest and take care of each other? And if you accidentally die in the forest, there is someone to help collect the body or something. Yes, it is much safer to enter the soul beast forest with many people than to enter alone, and it is easier to hunt the right soul beast successfully when you meet it. But if it was many years ago, our soul masters formed a team to enter the soul beast forest mainly to hunt soul beasts. But now, it is different for us disciples of the body sect, Yu said with a smile. Wang Yanfeng also came over at this time and explained to Dai Yuns, now we team up to get spirit rings, not to make it easier to catch suitable spirit beasts, but to prevent encountering those crazy spirit beasts, so that one person can handle it. Otherwise, according to the sect master, once the cultivation reaches the soul sect, the spirit ring matters depend on our own efforts. Dai Yuns became more and more confused. No, what's the purpose? Is it because the disciples die too slowly? Is Du Buxi going to send all the disciples of the body sect on their way? Look at Shrek Academy. When there are students who need spirit rings to advance, they always gather a large number of disciples waiting to break through, and then at least one titled Douluo takes them to find spirit rings. Now let's look at the body sect. Well, Dai Yuns felt that this sect would be finished sooner or later. No wonder there was only one person left in the Tang San. It turned out that he was asking for trouble. That's right. Ever since our body sect forced the beast god Emperor Yuan to launch a beast tide, the senior helped us mediate and taught us the special borrowing ring method. Since then, it has become very simple to obtain soul rings. This is why the sect master and the elders are particularly confident in us. However, the disciples below the 3rd ring are still too weak. If they are not careful, they may fall into the hands of the 100-year soul beast, so the elders will follow them. Chen Yu also nodded and said. Dai Yuns, he was stunned when he heard it next to him. What senior? What borrowing ring? What the hell? Then suddenly a light flashed in his mind. Oh, it's related to Tang Liu again. I don't know why, these operations of the body sect that Dai Yuns found difficult to understand. Once he knew that it was done by Tang Liu, he could accept it instantly. However, Dai Yuns was really interested in this so-called borrowing a ring, so he asked directly, Brother, what is borrowing a ring? After a few days of contact, Dai Yuns found that the disciples of the body sect were very nice and had no airs. They were all like golden brothers and sisters who would answer any questions and were easygoing and friendly. Of course, they might be like this when treating people who were also members of the body sect, but it was hard to say what kind of face they would have towards outsiders. Chen Yu answered him, "It is a special method of obtaining spirit rings that the senior taught us to ease the relationship between us and the spirit beasts. With this method, my disciples of the body sect no longer need to hunt spirit beasts to advance, and naturally, the relationship with the spirit beasts has improved. With a guarantee of the soul beast co-lord, the beast god Dion, the disciples of the body sect have a very high safety factor no matter which soul beast forest they enter. This is why the elders no longer care about or obtaining spirit rings." Dayuns nodded and asked, "Then how to use this method of borrowing rings? Does everyone in the body sect know it?" Chen Yu glanced at him and said, "That's right, but junior brother Dai, you have only recently joined, and no one has had time to teach you. The method of borrowing rings is also very simple. Find the soul beast you need, and then use your own soul power to communicate with their power, and draw it to yourself to turn it into a spirit ring. It's that simple." Won't the soul beast resist? It depends on whether the soul beast cooperates or not. If the soul beast is willing to cooperate, that's the best. If it's not willing, then we have to subdue it first and then force it to borrow the ring. This is another reason to form a team. Of course, if we meet a soul beast that takes the initiative to come up and must attack us, if it's just right, then we can kill it directly. Dayuns nodded silently. Compared with hunting soul beasts directly, it's better to have a gentler method like borrowing the ring. But since there is such a method that doesn't need to hurt soul beasts, why doesn't Tang Liu just promote it directly? But Dayuns didn't ask this question directly. People like Tang Liu have their own considerations no matter what they do. Since the other party only taught the method of borrowing the ring to the body sect, but didn't promote it to the world, there must be other intentions. Or it's not suitable yet, or it can be said that it's not the right time yet. Dayuns thought about it. If the method of borrowing the ring is really fully promoted, then it can be said that soul masters will no longer need to hunt soul beasts. It seems that the irreconcilable contradiction between soul masters and soul beasts has been resolved, but is it really so? Once soul masters find that soul beasts are no longer necessary for their cultivation, can soul beasts continue to develop as they are now? You know, powerful soul beasts are still a danger that humans cannot resist after all. If the danger of death at any time happens to be near your home, can you still sleep well in the middle of the night? Of course not. In this case, what will the soul masters do most likely? Suppress the number of soul beasts until they can remain at a level that cannot pose any threat to humans, but can ensure that all soul masters can borrow the ring and continue to practice, and become another kind of creature that is completely captive and controlled by humans. At that time, soul beasts will be no different from farmed poultry, pets, etc. Of course, this statement is too absolute. After all, soul masters need more than just soul rings to cultivate. Every soul master can absorb and fuse at least 6 soul bones. Borrowing rings can only provide soul masters with inexhaustible soul rings, but cannot bring soul bones to soul masters. Therefore, in order to become stronger, soul masters will still hunt soul beasts. In this way, Tang Liu may be worried about such a thing if he does not fully promote borrowing rings. Whether it is Kingaya, Jinchen or Funi, they can prove that the other party has a very good relationship with soul beasts. Moreover, due to his identity, Dayuns knows that Tang Liu has the blood of soul beasts, and with his strength, it is not strange that he can help the body sect and the beast god Emperor Yuan to mediate. But Dayuns always feels that Tang Liu's purpose is not so simple. Who knows, the method of borrowing rings he taught to the body sect is actually a test before full promotion. And since borrowing rings are already available, it is not impossible for him to figure out something like borrowing bones, right? So what is Tang Liu planning? At this moment, Dayuns was very curious. Tang Liu, laughing, "Yes, Dayuns, everything will be revealed in the ending of Dour, so stay tuned. Thank you to the friends who voted for the recommendation. See you tomorrow, the recent updates are very late, haha, guilty doge." Chapter 561 A Different Journey to the Stars. The mountain where the body sect is located is very high, but the physical fitness of the 5 people in the group is not weak. Except for the moment when they just left the sect and walked, the 5 people behind ran at full speed. Therefore, they soon came to the foot of the mountain and continued to run towards the valley in the distance. There are also some soul beasts living in the forest under the mountain, but most of them are not very strong, so Chen Yu and Zhang Yixi will not choose this place to obtain soul rings. Of course, even if there are not too many powerful soul beasts, Several people also tacitly did not choose to fly directly over the forest, but planned to pass through the woods and then borrow the flying soul guide to hurry on. As for the place to obtain soul rings, it is naturally the largest gathering place for soul beasts on the Douluo continent, the Star Forest. The Star Forest spans the border of the 3 countries that originally belonged to the Douluo continent. Several people did not choose to fly in a straight line and enter the Star Forest from the direction of the Heavenly Soul Empire. If you choose this route, it means that you may pass by Shrek Academy. In any case, the disciples of the body sect should try to avoid contact with people from Shrek Academy. Therefore, under the leadership of Chen Yu, the group made a detour and planned to enter the Xingdao Great Forest from the direction of the Xingluo Empire. This is of course a long journey. If Dai Yunzi was alone, then this distance would not be a big deal for him. But the other 4 people were different. They did not have such a huge power in their bodies to support them to use the flying soul guide for a long time, so they needed to stop and rest for a while from time to time to restore their soul power before they could continue on their way. It was also because of this that Dai Yunzi was a little worried that those evil soul masters would come to him again. He himself did not care, but he did not want to implicate other people. The number of those evil soul masters who came was more and more, and their strength was stronger and stronger. Last time, there were 2 titled Douluo who came to arrest him, and who knows how many people would come next time. Dai Yunzi could run away by himself, but the other 4 people were not sure. So along the way, Dai Yunzi hid the special coordinates left by Jing Hongqian on his body well, so that there was no possibility of him transmitting any information. A few days later, the 5 people flying in the air saw the green color of the Star Forest from afar. After getting closer to a distance, several people landed one after another, meditated on the spot to restore their soul power to the peak, and then walked the last section of the journey with their feet to enter the Star Forest. As soon as they entered the Star Forest, Chen Yu, who was walking in the front, took out a very obscure and mysterious blue rune from the storage soul guide and released it in the air. The blue rune did not go far away, but floated quietly above his head, silently following everyone forward. Dai Yunzi, who was walking at the end of the team, looked at the blue rune curiously. The iconic light made it hard not to think of Tang Liu. Obviously, this was another thing related to Tang Liu. As the second highest level attacking soul master in the team, Dai Yunzi naturally took over the task of guarding the rear. At this time, standing in front of him was Yang Yixi, who had the lowest cultivation, and in front of him were Wang Yanfeng and Yu Yu of the control system. Naturally, after seeing Chen Yu throw out the blue rune, Dai Yunzi's first reaction was to ask Yang Yixi in front. "Senior Sister Zhang, what is that blue pattern? Does it have any powerful function?" Although Zhang Yixi doesn't seem to like to talk much, she is still a good senior sister who answers all questions. Even though her words are quite brief, they perfectly answer Dai Yunzi's doubts. Identity proof proves that we are from the body sect. Dai Yunzi is not stupid. Although Zhang Yixi did not explain in detail, he has already thought of the news that others told him when he just left the body sect. When the two are combined, the real function of the blue rune is clear in his mind. It is very simple. Tang Liu once taught the secret method of borrowing rings to the body sect to ease the relationship between soul beasts and the body sect. From then on, the safety factor of the disciples of the body sect to obtain soul rings has increased sharply, and it should be based on that blue rune. The existence of the blue rune is to prove that they are disciples of the body sect, and they come to borrow rings instead of hunting soul beasts. Naturally, soul beasts who know this will no longer actively approach, unless they are soul beasts that are particularly cruel by nature and are unwilling to obey the orders of the beast god Emperor Yan. They will take the initiative to attack them. If you encounter this kind of situation, there is nothing to say. Just go all out and let fate decide your life or death. But I guess there are only a few crazy soul beasts like this, otherwise Du Buxi and the elders of the body sect would not be so relieved. After knowing it clearly, Dai Yunzi released his spirit eye's martial soul and covered the surroundings with spiritual detection. Sure enough, he saw that the nearby soul beasts began to move away from them, and had no intention of actively attacking. It was amazing that Dai Yunzi began to be interested in the blue rune and planned to ask Tang Liu for a few when he had the chance. However, although the soul beasts would not actively approach them, a new problem also came with it. If the soul beasts don't approach them, how can we find a suitable borrowing ring object? Dai Yunzi asked curiously. This time, the one who answered him was Yu Yu in front. Don't worry, wait until we reach the mixed area, you will know. He was still keeping it a secret, which made Dai Yun's even more curious. But with a blue rune, their journey was also extremely smooth, and no soul beasts would come to stop them. However, Dai Yun's occasionally detected several powerful soul beasts. Even if they noticed their presence, they would not quickly move away. Instead, they would stop and curiously watch them pass by. Soon after Dai Yun's entered the forest, he contacted everyone through mental invasion and shared the perspective of mental detection with them. Of course, after seeing the ratio of Dai Yun's martial soul and soul rings, and feeling the miraculous effect of mental detection, the other people naturally couldn't help but marvel at it, but there is no need to elaborate on these. For those soul beasts that would stop and look at them curiously, Yu explained to him that those were the soul beasts that could try to borrow a ring. As long as they were suitable for themselves, they could just go and find it. With a blue rune, these soul beasts would not attack them. Dai Yun's nodded to show that he understood, but he didn't expect that there was even a big cat-like soul beast that would leisurely lie on the branches and watch them pass by below. When Dai Yun's walked under the branch where it lived, it stretched out a claw and wanted to pat Dai Yun's head, which also surprised Dai Yun's. After having the blue rune, their relationship with the soul beast seemed to have completely changed, from being on the verge of a life and death struggle to being able to live in harmony. And because of the example of the big cat soul beast just now, Dai Yun's even felt like he was visiting a cat cafe. Well, this cat cafe is also themed on nature. Happy Dragon Boat Festival everyone, thank you to everyone who voted for the recommendation. See you tomorrow. I have very little time to write in recent days, and the author is also in the process of making up lessons and experiments during the Dragon Boat Festival ORZ, so the slow update has caused the pace of the article to slow down. The author expects to finish all the exams on June 10th, go home on the 15th, and make up experiments between the 10th and 15th. I will be able to update more when I go home, looking forward to it. JPG. Chapter 562. It is reasonable to use the ring to make a seal, right? The journey was smooth, and it didn't take long for the 5 people to enter the mixed area in the Xingdao Great Forest. They even encountered a group of blood-red baboons on the way, but even this ferocious soul beast had no interest in them. The effect of the blue rune was so powerful. The moment the few people stepped into the mixed area, Zhang Yixi stepped forward and stood with Chen Yu. Chen Yu also called back the blue rune floating in the air at this time, and then together with Zhang Yixi, injected a trace of soul power into it. After the blue rune obtained the soul power of the 2 people, it began to tremble unsteadily, climbing from Chen Yu's palm until it rose high into the branches. The next second, a somewhat strange energy fluctuation was emitted from the blue rune, and a circle of wave-like air patterns quickly spread outward. Dai Yun's looked up at this magical scene, and noticed from the corner of his eye that Yu was walking towards him. He was also looking at the light emanating from the rune and said, "This is how we find a suitable soul beast." Dai Yun's tilted his head to look at Yu, waiting for his next words. After that kind of rune receives the soul power of the soul master, it will transmit information to the soul beasts within a certain range, and the soul beasts that are willing to come to borrow the ring will quickly rush to find us. Dai Yun's was stunned for a moment. What if there is no soul beast willing? Yu smiled, but said, "Let me tell you in detail the method of borrowing a ring. First of all, the soul ring will only appear after the death of the soul beast, and each soul ring condenses all the soul power of the soul beast. Naturally, if we want to complete the borrowing ring, we also need the soul beast to voluntarily offer all its current soul power, so that under the effect of the borrowing ring secret method, we can successfully condense a soul ring. However, this method will not harm the life of the soul beast. After all, if the soul power is gone, it can quickly recover by itself. And in borrowing a ring, the soul beast is not the one who pays in vain. According to the senior who taught the secret method, after the secret method is completed, the soul beast will receive a trace of power from the rune, and almost all soul beasts are eager for the power in the rune. So far, no one has ever encountered a situation where no soul beast is willing to come. In addition, the rune seems to be able to select suitable soul beasts according to the characteristics of the person who injects soul power, and only pass the information of borrowing ring to them. Dai Yun's nodded slightly, and figured out all the functions of the rune. However, that kind of rune was so intelligent that it could automatically select soul beasts according to the characteristics of the injected soul power and let the suitable soul beasts come over. It was amazing. Not long after the wave pattern spread out, Dai Yun's spiritual detection found that some soul beasts began to approach them. At a glance, Their cultivation ranged from 2,000 to 20,000 years, which really met the soul ring age required by Chen Yu and Zhang Yixi now. The moment the soul beast appeared, Chen Yu and Zhang Yixi looked around to see if there was a soul beast that matched their own. If they didn't find it, they could only take the rune to the next range to summon soul beasts. Daiyuns looked at the soul beasts around him who seemed quite well behaved. Although they were of different species, the same light of desire flashed in their eyes, big and small. Sometimes he looked at the blue rune floating in the air, and sometimes he stared at a few people, as if silently saying choose me, choose me, choose me. Daiyuns, he looked at the runes in the air with some suspicion. There is no doubt that it must be something made by Tang Liu, but why is it so attractive to soul beasts? What exactly is Tang Liu's martial soul? Daiyuns remembered that Tang Liu once gave him a piece of bamboo that could change his appearance, and that thing was especially like the so-called talisman. Even though the real talisman was written on yellow paper, it did not prevent Daiyuns from feeling inconsistent. Tang Liu must have hidden something very important from him. Daiyuns thought with great certainty. During the time when he was distracted thinking, Zhang Yixi had already found a soul beast that matched her martial soul, and was ready to start borrowing the ring. Brother Dai, take a look, that secret method is very simple, maybe you will be able to do it after just one look. Yu said with a smile at this time, pulling Daiyuns back from his thoughts. Daiyuns looked at Zhang Yixi and found that the soul beast she chose was a golden-haired gorilla-like beast. The cultivation level of the gorilla soul beast should be around 2,500 years, and its upper limbs are particularly strong, which makes it look very powerful. Zhang Yixi's martial soul is her hands, so this gorilla is really a perfect match for her. That is the golden divine ape. It is very powerful. Ordinary tiger and leopard soul beasts find it difficult to fight it. Moreover, it is a social soul beast, and it is also a very powerful soul beast clan. As far as I know, the power of this golden divine ape should be second only to the golden tiger soul beast, but the golden tiger is relatively rare and extinct in the starred out great forest. It is not bad to meet this golden divine ape. Yu nodded. Golden tiger? Daiyuns' expression became a little strange. He wanted to tell Yu that he had not only seen golden tigers, but also seen many of them. After all, the two soul rings of 400,000 years on his body came from the Emperor Golden Tiger, the leader-level existence in the Golden Tiger tribe. They are now happily sniffing catnip in the forest behind the Haoshan sect, living a life of drunkenness and dreaming every day. After selecting the soul beast, Zhang Yixi sat cross-legged on the ground, and the golden divine ape also sat not far in front of her, learning to cross its short legs like Zhang Yixi. Daiyuns looked over there expectantly, very curious about how the borrowing ring secret method worked. Zhang Yixi, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground, flipped her hands, and her wide and slender 10 fingers quickly pinched out one complicated spell after another. With her series of fancy movements, there was even a misty light flashing between her hands, and from time to time, she could pull out a bright light band with the shaking of her hands. Just like the special effects of people in fairy tales, Daiyuns, Yu smiled and said, "How is it? The action of launching the secret method is not difficult. Did you remember it, junior brother Dai?" Daiyuns wanted to throw a 2S in his face. But in the end he just said awkwardly but politely, "I remember it." With this, the expectations that were originally full were instantly reset to zero, okay? The casting action full of bad dramas was quite unreliable at first glance. Daiyuns was sure that borrowing ring did not require any casting action to start. It must be a little bad taste of Tang Liu. Either he was deceiving the disciples of the body sect, or he deliberately set it up like this. No matter how Daiyuns complained in his heart, Zhang Yixi's borrowing ring started smoothly. Under Zhang Yixi's continuous casting and pinching of the action, the golden divine ape also lit up with golden soul power, and then it continued to gather between it and Zhang Yixi. In just 3 breaths, the prototype of a purple 1,000-year soul ring could be seen. As the purple soul ring became more and more solid, the golden light on the golden ape was also weakening, and it was completely extinguished at the moment when the soul ring was completely formed. In Daiyuns' spiritual detection, the soul power fluctuations on the golden ape were almost exhausted, and the state was like a soul master who had experienced a very exhausting battle. After the soul ring was formed, Zhang Yixi immediately meditated and began to absorb the soul ring. At this time, the blue rune in the air suddenly shot out a beam of blue light and sank into the body of the golden ape. Then, Daiyuns discovered that after obtaining the blue light in the rune, although the soul power of the golden ape was still exhausted, Its momentum seemed to be stronger than before, as if its cultivation was suddenly raised a little. Daiyun's was a little surprised that the power of the rune was so magical that it could directly help the soul beast improve its cultivation. Tang Liu, borrowing the ring is related to Haolin's magic. Haolin's magic contains magic. It takes a lot of effort to use magic, right? The fans of the body sect, loudly, it makes sense. Daiyun's, pointing, do you think it's reasonable for a group of people who play fantasy to suddenly start a cultivation style? Thank you to the friends who voted for recommendations and monthly tickets. See you tomorrow. Chapter 563 Awakening. The Golden Ape, which received the gift of rune power, did not leave immediately, but waited quietly for a while, allowing its soul power to recover to a level sufficient to protect itself, and then slowly disappeared into the forest. Daiyun's had been paying attention to the situation on Zhang Yixi's side, and he understood the actions of the Golden Ape. Although this kind of soul beast lives in groups, at this time, apart from the one that borrowed the ring to Zhang Yixi, there were no other golden apes around, but there were many soul beasts that were as powerful as the Golden Ape. Normally, it was fine, but after borrowing the ring, the soul power of the Golden Ape was completely exhausted. If it did not recover during the safe time, it would be possible that other soul beasts would chase and attack it after leaving. Even after receiving the gift, its cultivation level improved a little, but it was difficult to survive the attack of other soul beasts in their prime. In fact, after observing that the power of the rune could improve the cultivation level of soul beasts, Daiyun's realized a problem. There were 5 people in their team who came to obtain the spirit rings this time, but only Chen Yu and Zhang Yixi really needed the spirit rings to advance. In other words, only 2 spirit beasts could finally obtain the gift of the rune. Judging from the eagerness of the spirit beasts around, when Chen Yu also completed the borrowing ring, could the spirit beasts that did not get the gift really restrain their greed and cruelty? Daiyun's felt that such a situation should not happen. If this result had happened before, the body sect would not be so confident that the disciples would come out alone to obtain the spirit rings. Moreover, his spiritual detection also found that many spirit beasts had already chased the golden ape that had left earlier. The power of the blue rune is indeed magical. A little bit of it can make the cultivation of the spirit beast increase rapidly, making all the spirit beasts flock to it, and even give up attacking the spirit master and willingly borrow the ring. It is true that the spirit master cannot do without the spirit ring to improve his cultivation, but the average spirit master only needs 9 spirit rings, that is, 9 spirit beasts. Without considering the situation of borrowing multiple soul rings from a soul beast at the same time, at most 9 soul beasts can receive the gift of the rune. What about the other soul beasts that did not receive the gift? After all, the soul beasts attracted by the blue rune are not the soul beasts that are most compatible with this soul master, but multiple soul beasts that are compatible with this soul master. For those soul beasts that did not receive the gift, it is equivalent to someone promising you to do a favor, but you did help, but you can only watch the benefits being taken away by others. This is not only unpleasant for people, but also for soul beasts. People will find fault with those who make them unhappy, not to mention soul beasts whose nature is to fight and prey on the weak. Then it is normal for soul beasts to attack human soul masters because of this. But this phenomenon did not happen. Those soul beasts did not regard them as targets of attack, but instead chased the golden divine ape that received the gift. This shows that the power from the rune should be plunderable. Just like diverting trouble to the east. It easily shifted the attention of soul beasts to those soul beasts that receive the gift. But it cannot be denied that there may be soul beasts that always covet the blue rune itself, but with the order of the beast god, these soul beasts will probably know how to restrain themselves, and maybe even understand what sustainable development means. After all, human soul masters always come to obtain soul rings, and even if they get the rune, it is not certain whether they will live to enjoy it. Perhaps Tang Liu had already considered this when he decided to give the body sect the borrowing ring secret method and the mysterious blue rune. It must be said that when those careful and far-sighted plans come to their teammates, all the terrifying places become very reliable, especially when Daiyun thinks about how Tang Liu used various methods to send him the energy core of the dark demon evil god tiger, the wings of the ice and fire dragon king, and other opportunities. But Daiyun will not forget that Tang Liu was one of the reasons why he was only a hair's breadth away and failed to save Hao Yun'er's fate. Of course, he also knew that it was Tang Liu who was protecting himself and not letting Tang San notice his existence because of the changes in Hao Yun'er's life and death. Tang Liu had already told him the consequences of being discovered, even though he didn't know the specific situation 10,000 years ago. In addition, there was also the reason why he was not so brave at that time. Even now, he couldn't help thinking every day, if he had been so brave at that time, would Hao Yuner have survived? Why did Tang Liu play him again before? Wasn't it just to see if he had the courage to stand up? If he could stand up at that time, Dayuns believed that even if Tang San discovered his traces, Tang Liu would definitely protect himself. It's not that Dayuns has a natural liking for young people who are also time travelers, but he can see that Tang Liu has that special temperament? Character? Anyway, something like that. It's like the scorching sun. You know that the star itself has endless dangers and may even bring destruction. But living things cannot be separated from the sun. As long as you are still under that glory, you will always be protected by the star's light and gravity. It seems a bit inappropriate to use the sun to compare Tang Liu, because the sun is absolutely selfless and fair, but Tang Liu still has human emotions. Since there is still a human heart, it means that it is difficult to guess and figure it out. Dayuns didn't know why he was not worried about Tang Liu, but he felt very sure that unless he took the initiative to do something unfavorable, he would be a partner who could be fully trusted. Moreover, it should be because the souls came from the same place. Dayuns could also feel the weirdness of Tang Liu. The young man kept saying that he was only level 96 and could not beat the God King at all, but that body seemed to have been suppressing something. If it really broke out, Dayuns had a hunch that his previous guess about Tang Liu's identity would very likely become a reality. That feeling came very suddenly, but Dayuns just believed it inexplicably. It was precisely because he knew all this that he failed to save Hao Yuner, and the thorn in his heart had long disappeared. Not only because Hao Yuner would be resurrected in the God realm, but also because he had completely let it go. If you don't want the tragedy to happen again, you will take the initiative in the future. As cultivators, we should base our hearts on integrity. Although we don't take it as our responsibility to save the people of the world, we cannot bear to be self-sufficient, so why not stride forward? We only ask for a clear conscience, that's all. At this moment, Dayuns felt that his thoughts were extremely clear, as if some shackles on his body were quietly broken. Alice, it's another busy day doing experiments. Today's update is a little late. Sorry. Seeing that the English final exam is coming tomorrow, melancholy. But if there are friends who have to take the college entrance examination tomorrow, you must cheer up. I hope you all will master Chinese, mathematics, English, politics, history, geography, physics, chemistry and biology very smoothly. You will get all the answers in the exams, and you will get them all right. Thank you to all the friends who voted for recommendations. See you tomorrow. Chapter 564 King Gai wakes up. It was still the hall where all kinds of treasures were displayed. The shadow surrounded by blue-black light was still silent, and no one knew its true appearance. Tang Liu was meditating in the void, quietly floating in front of the shadow, staring at the shadow inside through the blue light around him. At a certain moment, he, who was originally as quiet as still water, suddenly raised his head and looked at a certain place in the void. In his pupils, a blue-black light quickly lit up. What's wrong? Jin Ringsu, who was accompanying him, stood up and asked. Tang Liu's eyes were still fixed in that direction, and he murmured, "Evil heart, there are signs of awakening." Jin Ringsu was stunned for a moment, so fast, his eyes were lowered again, but the light in his eyes was not extinguished. After pondering for a moment, Tang Liu said, he suddenly had an epiphany. Maybe there is something special about him, otherwise they would not have chosen him. Jin Ringsu suddenly asked curiously, "What about you? What was so special about you that made them fancy you?" Tang Liu stroked his chin. "Are you particularly good looking? Are you a very nice person? Do you have very long legs?" Jin Ringsu, after a while, she rolled her eyes, sat back on the sofa, picked up the romance novel she had just dropped and continued reading. Tang Liu looked at her with a smile, and the blue light in his eyes went out. Although Evil Heart has just shown signs of awakening, it is only half awake at present, and it is still a little short of the right time. We need to continue to guide it. Jin Ringsu didn't even raise her head. Then what are you going to do? Tang Liu glanced at the shadow in front of him, thought for a while and said, "I will notify Su Yu and Su Chen later and ask them to pay more attention. In addition, send the trio over to see if they have forgotten how to fight after 10,000 years of peace." Jin Ringsu nodded, but her eyes still did not move away from the novel in her hand. The golden generation of the past is quite nostalgic. "Okay, I will contact Davis after I finish reading this chapter." Seeing that she agreed, Tang Liu didn't say anything more. His eyes fell on the shadow surrounded by blue light in front of him again, and he just watched silently. The hall became quiet again. Still no signs of waking up. I don't know how long it took before Jinriksu's voice sounded again. Staring at the motionless shadow, Tang Liu slowly let out a breath. "I don't know, even you don't know. I have always guessed that maybe it is the means by which they brought people here, but I didn't find anything similar to it on Daiyun's. Could it be that the technology they use to send people here has been updated during this period of time? Although I have read a lot of books, I still can't keep up with your thinking now." Tang Liu smiled and turned to look at Jinriksu, who was speechless. "It should be one of the keys for me to go back. If exiled immortal Jade Bones is the key, then it may be the door that needs to be opened with the key. At least, it should be a lock or something." He looked at the shadow in front of him again. "When all the other exiled immortal Jade Bones appear in the world, we will know the answer." Jinriksu closed the book in her hand and sighed lightly. "It doesn't matter, anyway. You said that I should follow you. Let you do these things that require thinking. I'll contact Davis." While she stood up from the sofa, Tang Liu said seriously, "Not using your brain may be a prerequisite for the onset of Alzheimer's disease. We are more than 10,000 years old at most. We can't relax at this time. Do an English close test, a conic curve, and a force analysis every day to keep your brain healthy and energetic at all times." "Haha, I have learned double integrals." Jinriksu rolled her eyes. "Tang Liu, so you are a big shot who knows advanced mathematics. Goodbye." A quarter of an hour after Zhang Yixi entered into meditation, Chen Yu also found a soul beast that matched him and began to borrow a ring. It was a huge white-headed eagle. Daiyunzi had never seen it before. Even Long Xiaoyao and the teachers of Shrek Academy had never told him about it. It should be because this soul beast is quite rare. Even Yu, as a senior brother, did not recognize this soul beast, but he noticed that when Chen Yu saw the white-headed eagle before, there was a very obvious surprise on his face. He should know the white-headed eagle, otherwise he would not be so rash to borrow a ring. "Brother, do you know what kind of soul beast that is?" Yu asked. Daiyun shook his head. "Brother, don't you know either? There are so many kinds of soul beasts in this world that it is difficult to remember all of them." Yu shook his head. "But Chen Yu's martial soul is wings, so this white-headed eagle must have characteristics that match it. But no matter how I look at it, the wings of the white-headed eagle don't look very strong." Daiyun's thought for a while. "Perhaps, if it can carry the eagle to fly, then its wings are already very strong, right?" Yu didn't particularly agree. "I think it's like a spent force, and the day when the eagle's wings are broken may not be far away. Brother Chen Yu should know what's going on and won't choose soul rings to absorb casually," Daiyun said. "That is the giant Ailihuang white-headed falcon. Its wings are as hard as iron, and it looks like two fine swords when it swings. There is a very faint trace of phoenix blood in its body, but just like its name, that trace of divine beast blood has long been far away." Daiyun was not surprised to hear the voice that suddenly sounded in his mind. "Elder Kingaya, are you awake?" The owner of the clear voice was the dark demon evil tiger, Kingaya. When Daiyun was confused, he spoke to clear his doubts. Moreover, Daiyun felt that Kingaya's voice seemed to be more agile than before, and no longer had the mechanical dullness. "The energy core of the dark demon evil god tiger in your body came from me. It contains a trace of my spiritual consciousness. I signed a contract with you, and after practicing on you for several days, I reintegrated that trace of spiritual consciousness and perfected my spiritual intelligence," Kingaya said. "The master has already decided to connect you and me together. The spiritual consciousness left in the core is also one of the backup plans to protect you. Even without a contract, I can rush here immediately when you are in danger, master." "Are you talking about Tang Liu?" Daiyun asked curiously. "The Lord saved my life and reborn me, so I naturally recognize him as my lord." Daiyun had some guesses in his mind. "So, Elder Kingaya was once—" "Yes, my body was once destroyed by Tang San, and my soul was almost destroyed. I could only break through the space to escape. Thanks to the Lord for rescuing me, rebuilding my body, and giving me the name Kingaya. I hope that I can finally cleanse the evil thoughts in my body and leave a pure and majestic body." Daiyun wondered why this sentence sounded like a taste of enlightening a spirit beast. "Well, Elder Kingaya, since you are also from the same period as Tang Liu, can you tell me what happened at that time?" Daiyun was still curious about this. Now that King Gaia woke up, he was no longer in the state of meditation and cultivation before. Of course, he had to seize the opportunity to ask him about it. Now is not the time to talk. The special coordinates on your body have reacted. That's why I woke up to remind you. You'd better leave as soon as possible. I will help you hide your breath, King Gaia said calmly. Hearing this, Dai Yun's face became serious. Of course he knew what the anomaly in the special coordinates meant, which meant that the evil soul master would soon catch up, and he had to leave as soon as possible, so as not to involve the 4 brothers and sisters of the body sect around him. Okay, wait for me to explain to them, Elder King Gaia. Just call me King Gaia. He paused. You have 1 minute. Friends who are taking the college entrance examination should continue to work hard. Old acquaintances are about to appear. Who are they? This chapter has filled in a few holes. I wonder if my friends have noticed it. Thank you to the friends who voted for the recommendation. Thank you to the 9 friends who rewarded this book. Thank you for your support. See you tomorrow. Chapter 565 Dai Yuns, hurry up when the wind blows. The situation was urgent. Dai Yuns did not delay, and immediately said to Yu beside him, Brother Yu, there's an emergency, I must leave first. If Brother Chen and Sister Jiang have absorbed the soul ring and I haven't come back yet, don't wait for me, leave immediately. Yu was stunned for a moment, a little confused why Dai Yun suddenly became so anxious. What happened? Do you need my help? Dai Yun said calmly, it's too late to explain. If I don't leave, everyone will be in danger. At the same time, he also asked King Gaia in his heart, after the elders helped me hide my breath, is it possible for the evil soul master to find this place? King Gaia replied, the special coordinates will continue to transmit your location information to them. If you leave now, they may continue to chase your location, or they may come here to check the situation first. That is to say, Brother Yu and the others may still be in danger. King Gaia, I can stay here and watch them quietly. If the evil soul master doesn't come, I will meet you immediately. Okay. Yu didn't say anything in the end. Seeing that Dai Yuns didn't seem to be joking, he just said solemnly, Brother, be careful. Dai Yuns nodded, turned around, and ran in a random direction. The power of space kept transmitting his body, and he disappeared into the depths of the dense forest almost instantly. Chen Yu completed the borrowing ring and was absorbing the soul ring like Zhang Yixi. Now only Yu and Wang Yanfeng were still awake. Wang Yanfeng also saw the scene of Dai Yuns leaving the team. He walked to Yu and asked, what happened? Why did junior brother Dai suddenly leave? Yu shook his head and glanced at the direction where Dai Yuns disappeared. I don't know, but Elder Su told me in advance not to interfere too much with junior brother Dai's decision after he comes out. Even if he wants to die, we can't stop him. Wang Yanfeng was stunned for a moment. I didn't quite understand. So does junior brother Dai have some unknown background, or does Elder Su have a grudge against him? Yu glanced at him. Don't worry about it, now we just need to keep an eye on Chen Yu and Zhang Yixi. Wait until they have absorbed the soul rings and leave immediately, even if junior brother Dai doesn't come back. I have a feeling that the situation he encountered is far beyond our ability to solve. Wang Yanfeng muttered, I dare not fucking care about a player with 500,000 year soul rings. Yu. During the time the two were talking, Dai Yuns had already quickly jumped 3 miles and had long left the mixed zone, and was even almost at the edge of the starred-out Great Forest. Speaking of which, he also had an experience of fighting against evil spirit masters in the zinged-out Great Forest, and there were 2 evil Douluos at that time. However, Dai Yuns was seriously injured at that time, and he relied on the 3-eyed golden lion to survive. Although that memory was vague, he didn't know the final fate of the 2 evil Douluos, but he was sure that the 2 evil Douluos must have died. What made Dai Yuns even more curious was what the 3-eyed golden lion did at that time, and why he returned to Shrek Academy intact later. Now he has come to the zinged-out Great Forest again, and naturally and inevitably thought of the somewhat greedy golden beast. Yu Hao should have obtained the Eye of Destiny. 5 years later, the 3-eyed golden lion will also turn into Wang Qiao to find Ho Yu Hao. They will go to hunt soul rings together, and then find that they confuse martial souls. They will also go to the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire together and pick up the acacia heartbroken red. I don't know why, when I thought of this, Dai Yuns felt a little uncomfortable in his heart. That feeling came a little strange, and disappeared inexplicably. He wanted to think carefully about the reason for the feeling of suffocation, but now was not a good time. The extreme evil attribute had made him vaguely aware of the traces of the evil soul master, but King Gaia had not returned yet. This meant that he could not escape from the encirclement of the evil soul master as recklessly as he did last time, and kill someone by the way. At this time, all he could do was run as quickly as possible, as far as he could. If a fight really broke out, the battlefield would have to be pulled outside the Xingdao Great Forest. First of all, the battle with the evil soul master would definitely affect many weak soul beasts. Not to mention that Daiyuns did not want to see this scene, and the evil soul master had endless strange methods, including collecting soul beasts' souls to strengthen himself. Of course, he would not do such a thing to increase the enemy's strength. In addition, he should keep as much distance as possible from Yu and the others, so that King Gaia could come and join him earlier. As long as King Gaia was still on him, he would not be intimidated even if 2 more evil Douluos came. However, the situation took a sharp turn for the worse when Daiyuns just stepped into the outer area. In the distance, a lifeless gray-black fog surrounded him. Where the fog was pervasive, the trees that were originally full of vitality suddenly lost their luster. Daiyun stopped running, looked at the fog, and chose to break out from the top. The mental power mixed with several thunderous lights gushed out, cutting all the branches above his head, allowing the sunlight to penetrate. At the same time, Daiyun pushed the ground with his feet, and his figure rushed out from the cut gap like a cannonball. His figure flashed, and in the blink of an eye he flew high over the forest. Behind him, the Ice and Fire Dragon King spread his wings and flew rapidly towards the border of the forest. At the moment when Daiyun rushed out of the forest, dark figures flew up from all around, not only surrounding and chasing Daiyun, but also people kept rushing out from the forest below. The dense figures were like a big net. Daiyun was the butterfly they wanted to catch. When Daiyun saw this situation with his spiritual detection, he took a deep breath on the spot. Has the Holy Spirit Church already sent out all its forces to catch him? Is it too exaggerated? He flew at full speed while communicating with the contract. Elder, please save my life, King Gaia. When Daiyun saw 3 people with 9 soul rings appearing in front of him, he knew that it might not be so easy for him to escape this time. However, at this time, King Gaia's voice also sounded in his mind again. Use the power of the contract to summon me, and I will take you away. When he was still in the Haoshan sect, Daiyun had played with the power of the contract, so he naturally knew how to use it to summon King Gaia. While he was flying high in the sky, he calmed down and connected with the power of the contract. Just as the 3 evil Douluos were about to approach Daiyun, a shadow flashed behind him, raised his hand and put it on his shoulder, and then disappeared with him in the silver light. The 3 evil Douluos were stunned at the same time. After a while, the leader was furious. Where's he? The other evil soul masters looked at each other, and couldn't understand why Daiyun disappeared just now. Didn't he say that he could only teleport within a range of 10 meters? Where is he now? The leading evil Douluo cursed. It's no wonder that he was so angry, because this was the 3rd time they failed to catch Daiyun, and more people came each time. But even so, Daiyun still ran away. When have they, the evil soul masters, suffered such grievances? However, the evil Douluo quickly calmed down and said to the others, continue to track, and you must bring the Holy Sun back, otherwise none of us can bear the accusation of the leader. As soon as he finished speaking, the evil Douluo flying beside him drew a bloodlight from his arms. After the bloodlight appeared, it faintly condensed into an arrow, pointing a direction for them. Chase, the leading evil Douluo gave an order and rushed out first. So this year's college entrance examination starts today. But friends who are going to take the exam, keep working hard. Thank you to everyone who voted for the recommendation. See you tomorrow. Chapter 566 Return to the Sect. In the cold and gloomy darkness, Daiyun and King Gaia head here, looking up and quietly watching the large number of evil soul masters flying away in the air. With King Gaia's current strength, of course, he can use the power of space to carry Daiyun away thousands of miles in an instant. But in the end, they just stood in King Gaia's domain, isolated from the information of the spatial coordinates, and did not go far away. Because there were several brothers and sisters from the body sect in the starred out Great Forest, Daiyun was not at ease leaving them alone there, for fear that those mentally ill evil soul masters would cause trouble for them. Not everyone in this world can escape from the hands of the titled Douluo like him, not to mention that the evil soul master dispatched more than one titled Douluo. When King Gaia could no longer capture the figure of the evil soul master at the end of his sight, he took back the domain. The special coordinates had been processed by him before, and he would not reveal Daiyun's whereabouts to the evil soul master for a while, So King Gaia simply lifted the domain. Thinking of the evil soul masters who were so dense that they were almost like locusts passing through the border, Daiyuns breathed a sigh of relief. Thank you, Elder King Gaia. But after a while, he was a little timid. All the evil soul masters just now seem to be able to fly directly with their soul power, which means they have at least the cultivation of soul saint. Is the Holy Spirit Church so strong? King Gaia looked thoughtful. If you want, I can help you kill them. His tone was quite calm, as if he was stating a fact. But before he said it, he seemed to be hesitant about something, a little contradictory. Daiyuns was stunned for a moment, looked at him and said, "Did Tang Liu tell you anything extra? I have signed the contract now, and I can fulfill any of your requests," King Gaia said, his tone still without any ripples. "It's just that the master has ordered that we should try not to actively interfere with the world as much as possible to prevent deviations. But your request is equally important." Daiyuns figured it out. Is this saying that his order has a higher priority? But didn't they sign an equal contract? He looked at King Gaia beside him. The other person had a sinister and handsome appearance, a pair of dark pupils, but he had the clarity of a child. Daiyuns couldn't help but look at King Gaia with worry. Could it be that he didn't know what the equal contract actually represented? Daiyuns felt that he needed to explain it to King Gaia, so he said seriously, "Elder King Gaia, the contract signed between you and me is equal, and our relationship is also equal. There is no situation where one person orders the other to do it. Just like I say now, if I ask you to kill senior brother Yu and the others, will you go?" Obviously not, King Gaia. "Okay, Daiyuns." He looked at King Gaia, who nodded calmly but very decisively, and the sentence "this is obviously against your conscience" was directly choked back. Daiyuns had a toothache expression, paused for a moment, and continued unyieldingly, "If I ask you to kill Tang Liu, will you go?" King Gaia frowned. "No." Daiyuns immediately changed his expression to "Oh, that's right, see, you can't do that to Tang Liu, the master is too strong, I can't beat him at all." "I will die," King Gaia said very straightforwardly. Daiyuns, after a while, he couldn't believe it. "Didn't you say that Tang Liu saved your life and gave you a new life? Is it okay to show this look of seriously considering whether he can beat Tang Liu?" King Gaia just looked at him deeply. "It's true that the master saved my life and gave me a new life. But as long as it is your request, I will do my best to complete it." Daiyuns, the grass and trees in the wild are fragrant, the air is fresh, and the unknown birds are singing happily, and their melodious voices show their joy. But Daiyuns just felt that there was still a long way to go to correct Elder King Gaia's ideas. "Elder King Gaia, let me tell you this, I will not ask you to do anything that goes against your heart, I will only ask you to help me when I need it. You can also refuse me at any time, because you have this right. Similarly, you can also ask me to help you when you need it. I believe that Tang Liu must also hope that we can be friends, not because of the restrained master-servant relationship. Now the times have changed, everyone is equal, and that kind of thing is no longer popular." King Gaia thought about Daiyuns' words, nodded slightly, but still said, "But I heard that the servants in the Grand Duke's mansion in several empires are still the same as the slaves in the past." Daiyuns was choked again. Was he talking about the era of Douluo continent? But he couldn't really tell King Gaia this, so he just waved his hand in the end and let King Gaia think whatever he wanted. Then he turned and walked towards the Xingdao Great Forest, identifying the direction, preparing to meet Yu and others. King Gaia followed him closely, not saying a word, but with a smile on his face, and no one knew what he was thinking. Daiyuns walked in front, still muttering quietly. I don't know if Tang Liu has ever given ideological education to the elders of King Gaia before. He really couldn't understand why King Gaia seemed to obey him and obey everything he said unconditionally. Although he was a dark demon evil tiger, he didn't have the slightest arrogance of a soul beast. Could it be because of the so-called transcendence? In this Douluo continent, what does transcendence mean, and how can it be transcended? Become a god, in order to seek eternal life? Daiyuns didn't know what the specific meaning was, and he didn't know if he could give King Gaia what he wanted. So when King Gaia showed that kind of unconditional trust, he felt very uncomfortable. He was afraid that if he was not careful, he would betray this trust. A few days later, Chen Yu, who was already a soul king, looked at the towering mountain in front of him and couldn't help but sigh. I'm finally back. We don't have many opportunities to go out. The last time I left the sect was last time. It's just that after staying in the sect for so long, I have become a lot more of a homebody. I'm even reluctant to go out to get a soul ring this time. Wang Yanfeng next to him smiled and punched him. Then don't go out when you cultivate to the Soul Emperor. It's okay if you don't want soul rings. Chen Yu turned around and kicked him. Get out, get out. Improving your strength is still the most important thing. After becoming a Soul King, I already have a premonition that I will awaken again, which is something you, a small Soul Emperor, can't understand. Wang Yanfeng was dissatisfied. What's wrong with Soul King? What's wrong with Soul King? I'm almost there, okay? Don't be too proud. When I cultivate to Soul King, I will definitely crush you. Dai Yun's, Yu, and Zhang Yixi ignored the two good brothers who were arguing, and took the lead to set foot on the mountain trail, climbing to the top of the mountain at full speed. Junior brother, what are your plans after returning to the sect? Yu said to Dai Yun's beside him while running. Dai Yun's thought for a moment and said, I don't have any special ideas. I should just practice well. But isn't the sect's inheritance trial about to begin? I'm quite interested in that. It took them nearly a month to get the spirit rings, and the inheritance trial was not far away. Yu nodded. That's right. There are many benefits to our sect's inheritance trial. I believe that with your strength, you will be able to awaken your martial soul for the second time. After hearing what he said, Dai Yun's finally confirmed one thing. So, senior brother, there is no secret method in our sect that can awaken the original martial soul for the second time. Does it all rely on the inheritance trial? Small theater, King Gaia, as long as it is your request, I will do my best to complete it. Dai Yun's, brain twitching, then stop talking and kiss me. King Gaia, after a while, Dai Yun's looked at King Gaia who came up to him. Kaya Odao Mate, I was kidding. King Gaia pinched Dai Yun's chin with the absolute difference in strength. Dai Yun's, pupils shaking. Could it be that Dai Yun's will have to confess here today? Later. Tang Liu, gossiping, what happened? What happened? What happened? Dai Yun's, squeaking, he kissed my lower chin all of a sudden. King Gaia, one update today, let the author transition, thanks to the friends who voted for the recommendation. See you tomorrow. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 567 Elder Su. Dai Yun's had been here for the secret method that could awaken the body spirit for the second time. Dubusi asked him to obtain the secret method based on his contribution, but the Zibin Lao, which was in charge of the sect's miscellaneous affairs, had stopped issuing tasks for a long time. In this case, when would he be able to make enough contributions to obtain the secret method? It was a long time in the future. But if we change our mindset, what if the so-called secret method that could awaken the body spirit for the second time did not exist at all? If from the beginning to the end, the second awakening of the body spirit was only dependent on the inheritance trial of the body sect, then seeing that the next trial was coming soon, he would definitely participate in it, and there was a high probability that he would find a way to awaken the spirit eyes for the second time in the trial. In this way, he had no reason to stay in the body sect, and Dubusi must have known this, but he still insisted on the secret method, which should be just a little trick to keep him in the body sect. What was this for? Why did he have to stay in the body sect? Because of his talent, because his second martial soul was an extreme martial soul? When Dai Yun's decided to step onto the field of the All-Continent Advanced Soul Master Academy Soul Fighting Competition, and released a god-devouring evil-eye white demon tiger under the watchful eyes of the crowd, not afraid of being discovered by others for his extreme evil, nor afraid of being noticed by others for his 100,000-year soul ring, he was ready and calmly accepted everything that might happen in the future. At that time, he thought he would die, so his actions were quite like turning the table over. But even after knowing that it was actually just a play performed by Tang Liu, a carefully woven test for him, he did not feel the slightest regret in his heart. The appearance of the extreme darkness was to inform the insiders present that his martial soul was not just the evil-eyed white tiger. And the Duke of White Tiger has not found him until now, perhaps because he has long been protected by a Shrek Academy and cannot be contacted at all. Therefore, he was not angry about the deception of Dubusi who coveted his talent. And why should he get angry about such a thing? Did Dubusi or other people in the body sect do anything bad to him? On the contrary, Dai Yun's even likes the atmosphere of the body sect a little bit, because it gives him a familiar and modern feeling. But he knows that he can't stay here, because he has very important things to do. Messiah Ateo is still waiting for him in the Holy Spirit Church. Once the spirit eyes are awakened for the second time, he must leave the body sect and let the evil soul master of the Holy Spirit Church capture him. The shorter the time, the better, because he doesn't know how long Messiah Ateo can keep her sanity. Once she is controlled by the evil soul master and causes her to shed blood that she doesn't want to be stained with, even if she can regain her sanity in the future, she won't feel good. What Yuns didn't expect was that Yu Yu's answer was not exactly what he guessed. There is actually a secret method that can directly awaken the original martial soul for the second time, but very few disciples will take that path. Yuns couldn't help but be stunned for a moment and said, "Is there really such a secret method?" Yu Yu nodded affirmatively, "Yes. This secret method is in the hands of the sect master and all the elders, and there are related rubbings on the top floor of Benai Pavilion. In the sect, although there is no clear explanation, privately using the secret method to awaken the original martial soul for the second time is still a serious violation of the sect's rules. Although the use of secret methods can awaken the original martial soul for the second time immediately, it is like forcing the growth of seedlings. The disciple's strength has increased, but the upper limit that can be reached in the future is shackled. What the elders often teach is to take the disciple's own potential as the leading factor, and under the influence of external pressure, spontaneously awaken the martial soul for the second time. In this way, the overall strength of the disciples can reach the peak that it can reach after the martial soul awakens for the second time. To put it in a metaphor, if you use secret methods to force awakening, it is basically the worst black iron awakening. Only disciples with good talents can reach the bronze level, and silver awakening is extremely rare. But if it is a spontaneous awakening through training, it is basically bronze level. The inheritance trial is equivalent to compressing the training into a very short period of time. Even if the disciple fails to awaken for the second time in the end, he can benefit a lot, and it is easier to awaken spontaneously in the future training. After listening to Yu Yu's explanation, Yuns finally had a good understanding of the second awakening of the body martial soul. It turned out that Du Buxi was not lying to him. The secret method was true, but it seemed that this body Douluo did not want him to rely on the secret method for the second awakening, so he said that he would stay in the body sect for the time being, waiting for him to discover it himself in the future, and then enter the inheritance trial. Just when Yuns was thinking, Yu Yu added one more sentence, "Junior brother, you can find out about these things by asking Elder Su. When accepting this commission, didn't you take the opportunity to ask? Elder Su is the elder that is easiest to meet on weekdays. The other elders are in seclusion most of the time, so it is difficult to see them." Yuns was stunned for a moment. "Elder Su, who is that?" "Yes. Don't look at Elder Su, who handles the sect's miscellaneous affairs in the Benzi building all day, but his cultivation is the most profound one except for the sect master. Whether it is cultivation or something else, just ask him if you don't understand." Yu Yu nodded, and his words inadvertently carried a bit of respect for the Elder Su he mentioned. Yuns pretended to glance at Yu Yu naturally, and asked calmly, "Is it the one who registered for us in the Benzi building?" "That's him, but he looks very young, only in his 20s. Is he actually an elder of our sect?" "As far as I know, when the current eldest brother of the sect just entered the sect as a child, Elder Su was already working in the Benzi building. Don't be fooled by Elder Su's young appearance, but that must be the result of his high level of cultivation, reaching the state of returning to nature, which is the level that we disciples must strive to catch up with." "Is that so?" Yuns seemed to be thinking about something, but his expression did not change at all. Obviously, Yu Yu's unintentional words revealed a very important information to him. The young man in the original building might not be called Chen Su at all, but another name. Otherwise, why didn't Yu Yu call him Elder Chen? Just to be rigorous and prove his guess, Yuns asked another question. "Brother, do you know Elder Su's real name?" "I know." Yu Yu nodded. "The elder's real name is Su Chen. But no disciple knows what the elder's martial spirit is." "Su Chen? Chen Su?" It turned out that he deliberately reversed his name. Yuns's face was hung with some excitement. "Then I will definitely ask Elder Su more later." However, a quarter of an hour later, Yuns looked at the empty lobby on the first floor of the Benbin building and couldn't help falling into deep thought. Yu Yu was a little surprised. What a coincidence, Elder Su is not here. Inspiration transition period, haha, guilty doge. Tomorrow it should be able to return to updating at 8 o'clock. The author is not too sure, because there are still 2 experiments left to be completed. But time is not as tight as before, so it is mostly freed, muttering, "Thanks to the friends who voted for the recommendation. See you tomorrow." Chapter 568, Visiting the Building Again. Was he just not there, or did he know from some sources that he already knew something, so he slipped away in advance? Originally, Dai-Yun's only slightly doubted Chen Su's identity, but now, he can be sure that Chen Su is definitely problematic. Not for any reason, just an extremely sharp intuition. Since Tang Liu confessed everything to him, Dai-Yun has been extremely sensitive to everything that can be related to Tang Liu. He doesn't even need to find any evidence to be sure of all his guesses. And so far, none of those guesses are wrong. So who is Chen Su, or Su Chen? Is he really just an elder of the body sect, and what is his relationship with Tang Liu? Or, is it another hidden chess move left by Tang Liu, and is it related to him? Dai-Yun is already a little impatient to see the other party, but he doesn't know why Su Chen would choose to avoid him at this time instead of keeping in touch with him. From beginning to end, Dai-Yun's never considered that Su Chen really had something to leave temporarily. He was extremely sure that the other party would definitely not appear in front of him again next time. As expected, 3 days later, Dai-Yun heard from Yu that Su Chen announced his retreat, saying that he suddenly had an epiphany and would go into retreat for a long time to advance. Elder Su is the second only to the sect master. I'm afraid he will enter the level of extreme Douluo in this retreat. Yu's face was full of the longing of a young man. He came to Dai-Yun's this time to bring the commission from Chen Yu and Zhang Yixi. It was not something particularly precious, just a leather bag containing dozens of gold soul coins. Dai-Yun's was not surprised. After all, they did not contribute at all in this trip to the Xingdao Great Forest. He even left the team halfway to avoid the evil soul master. It was already very good to get dozens of gold soul coins. What about the Benzi building? After Elder Su goes into retreat, who'll handle the various affairs of the Benzi building? Dai-Yun asked curiously. Naturally, there are relevant disciples to take over. In fact, the building was originally managed by some disciples, and Elder Su was just in charge. But later, for some reason, Elder Su did everything himself, as if it was because he was too bored. Dai-Yun listened to the words and fell into thought again. So he has lived too long and can't help but want to find something to do. He is not unfamiliar with it, because in the meantime, Tang Liu is a living day. What did he say at that time? He said that he has existed for tens of thousands of years, so it is natural to feel bored. When there is nothing to do, he can only sleep to pass the time, but when he can't sleep, he must find something to do, so as not to be bored to death. And what Tang Liu chose to find was to play a game of unequal transaction. Although that was just an excuse to give him the energy core of the dark demon evil god tiger and the wings of the ice and fire dragon king. But Tang Liu did plan this carefully for hundreds of years. Tang Liu told Dai-Yun that in order to make people on the Douluo continent believe in this trading game, he had quietly attracted people to trade hundreds of years ago, thereby creating a mysterious rumor passed down by word of mouth. If it was just a trading game that suddenly popped up in a short period of time, big figures like Long Xiaoyao and Zhongli Wu would definitely not be so easily hooked. Unless the legend is already well known in the Soul Master world, and many people believe it, and even have real examples of getting substantial benefits from the trading game. As long as they are sure that they can get enough benefits from the game to make them excited, then even if the authenticity of the legend is in doubt, there will be countless people who want to find him to play the trading game. And these people who take risks are all chess pieces that can be controlled by him. In this way, Tang Liu can carefully weave a network for Dai-Yun, so that other people on the network will become the nutrients for Dai-Yun's growth without knowing it. No matter how many times Dai-Yun thinks about this method, he feels very terrifying. This should have been something that was completely impossible to accomplish with human power, but Tang Liu did it, and he did it very easily, which was terrifying. But now that he knew that Tang Liu was a friendly party, Dai-Yun didn't feel scared at all, he just felt that Tang Liu was so damn reliable. Now that Su Chen, who was in a similar situation, appeared again, Dai-Yun naturally felt very curious, and even had a mentality of opening a blind box. What will it be this time? Whether it is the energy core of the dark demon evil god tiger or the wings of the ice and fire dragon king, they are all top-notch. Dai-Yun now needs these things very much, and tries his best to enhance his safety factor in the Holy Spirit Church. So after saying goodbye to Yu, he walked towards the Benzi building without stopping. Although Su Chen announced his retreat, there should be some clues left, otherwise why would he contact himself and specially report a fake name? There were still disciples queuing in groups of 3 or 2 in front of the Benzi building, either to get the elixir or for some trivial civil disputes. But now, the person standing in the lobby on the first floor was a beautiful woman with a ponytail. Unlike Su Chen, who had few expressions on his face and did things like a precise machine, the woman's attitude could even be described as lazy and irritable. She moved a chair and sat in front of the window, feeling bored, supporting her chin with one hand and playing with her hair with the other. She looked to the side with her eyes slanted, quietly listening to the disciples queuing outside the window. "Elder, I feel that Xia Hong's attitude towards me has become a little cold recently. What should I do?" "Oh, Elder, Xia Hong seems to be getting close to seeing your brother Xiao recently." "Oh, Elder, Xia Hong ignored me when I talked to her recently. Senior brother Xiao even told me privately that Xia Hong asked him to go to the top of the mountain to watch the sunrise together, but he refused and told me that Xia Hong was just hanging me. How could I bear it?" I directly retorted and told senior brother Xiao not to trust men. Xia Hong asked him to watch the sunrise just to get closer to me. "Oh," the woman sitting in the window impatiently shook off the hair in her hand, clenched her fist and punched the window, looking like she might get angry and beat someone up at any time. However, the disciples outside obviously didn't have much sense and kept muttering, "Elder, do you think Xia Hong is interested in me?" With a pop, Dai-yun saw a large crack where the woman's fist touched the window. If the wood was not tough enough, the window might have been completely broken by now. "Elder, Xia Hong, red you bastard!" The woman's speed was too fast, so fast that Dai-yun's had no time to react, and the mumbling disciple outside screamed and fell to the ground. Dai-yun's looked at the disciple's face that swelled up instantly and took a breath of cold air. The woman was still sitting, banging on the window with both hands, and said in a somewhat collapsed tone, "You are elite disciples of the main body martial spirit, why do you have to tell me about any emotional disputes? Is this a psychological counseling room?" As she spoke, she looked at the swollen-faced disciple who dusted himself off and got up happily with a toothache expression. The disciple was particularly aggrieved, "But Elder, isn't our building responsible for these things?" The woman looked up at the sky in despair. "Go back and copy the responsibilities of the building for me 10,000 times, and take a good look at where it says that we will take care of your emotional disputes." The disciple covered his face and argued, "Elder Su Chen said it himself, daily trivia constitutes a person's life, and life disputes are inevitable. They should be classified as miscellaneous matters and managed by the building." The woman stared at him calmly. "If you don't leave my sight, I will punish you first." The disciple covered his face and ran away. The disciples who were watching the excitement on the side gathered around again, and the first sentence they said was, "Elder, Xia Lu." The woman looked up at the sky again. "Su Chen, my beep, Dai-yun's, today is the author who updated on time. But there's still only one chapter of the author, Lizard Escape JPG, thanks to the friends who voted for the recommendation. See you tomorrow. The author has finished the experiment, only 4 lab reports are left, and I will be completely free after writing them. Thumbs up." Chapter 569 Su Yu's story. Hello. The woman glanced at him listlessly and said, "What's the matter? I want to ask something about Elder Su Chen." "Oh." The woman sat up straight, leaned against the back of the chair, crossed her arms, and looked at Dai-yun's with interest. "I know you, the new disciple, Dai-yun's, right? You have 500,000 year spirit rings. What do you want to know about Su Chen?" Dai-yun's looked at the woman and suddenly said, "I wonder what the elder's name is." The woman looked at the boy outside the window for a while, a little unsure of what he was thinking, but finally said, "My name is Yu Xu." Then she saw Dai-yun's bow slightly. "Meet Elder Su Yu." Su Yu. She looked at Dai-yun's with a smile in his eyes, and suddenly she began to doubt her life. But after all, she was a member of the team, an elite among elites, and she soon figured out why she was exposed so quickly. No wonder Su Chen suddenly asked her to replace the position outside, but she hid in the name of retreat. It turned out that she was discovered. Su Yu didn't know what to say, and nodded with despair. Yes. Dai-yun's looked at the woman who suddenly started to act bad, and found it a little funny, but said calmly, "I don't know what the relationship is between Elder Su Yu and Elder Su Chen." Su Yu stared at him with dead fish eyes. I am his sister who was born with an ulcer." Dai-yun's, it's confirmed that these two must be related to Tang Liu. But Su Yu suddenly did this. Dai-yun's didn't know what to say next. Suyu didn't mean to speak again, and for a while, the two fell into an awkward silence. Until a crying disciple ran behind Dai Yun's. Woo woo woo, elder, I'm heartbroken. It was still the guy who was punched by Suyu, and half of his face was swollen. Suyu, Dai Yun's, the sun was setting. Dai Yun's and Suyu sat side by side on the eaves of the Banksin Hall, the tallest building in the Benti sect. One was looking down at the disciples who were moving freely in the huge martial arts arena, and the other was looking at the blood-red sunset in the distance. What a beautiful scene. Even if I have watched it for 10,000 years, I still feel it is beautiful. Dai Yun's listened to Suyu's murmur and said, really? I have heard others say that looking at young people full of vigor and vitality will make your mind younger. Do you have the same feeling? He did not notice that Suyu was not looking at the same place as him. But after hearing his words, Suyu still retracted her gaze from the setting sun in the sky and turned to the disciples of the body sect who were playing below. Her pretty face suddenly had a bit of indescribable color. Don't mention them. Since the first group of people who exchanged and studied there came back, the body sect, which was originally normal, suddenly went astray. One by one, they no longer just focused on cultivation. Instead, they began to perform various headache-inducing sad dramas, which were out of control and forced her to watch for thousands of years. So what strange things did the first group of disciples of the body sect learn there? Dai Yun's pondered over Suyu's words. Exchange and study, and over there, in his words, this is the so-called awakening of consciousness, Suyu said with a look of toothache. But these guys from the body sect seem to have awakened in the wrong place. What is over there? Dai Yun suddenly asked. But Suyu answered the question irrelevantly. Before dark, I will tell you my story. Although he was avoided, Dai Yun's did not say anything and still followed Suyu's meaning. Okay, Suyu lowered her head for a while, then looked straight at the red sun with only half of its face left in the sky, and did not seem to feel dazzling at all. At this time, she began to speak. I am a descendant of the elders worshipped by the Xingluo Empire, and my mission is to protect the royal family. But what I didn't expect was that the royal family I swore allegiance to would cut my back with a knife when I turned around. I spent 8 years in the dark dungeon in a daze. My body became weak because of the poison I was fed, and my soul power and martial soul could not communicate. In the despair of being a fish on a plate, I thought I would disappear in humiliation and silence. Just like when the night comes, it is always so quiet and silent. Maybe someone will care, but no one will ever know. When the prince who was once admired by everyone let his malicious men approach me, I couldn't help but think, if there are living beings in the dark trench, will they be as desperate as I was at that time? I tried to beg, praying that they would have even the slightest pity for me. But my body was so weak that even just opening my mouth to speak became unimaginable. Difficult. The malice of those people surrounded me, just like the most terrifying beast about to devour me. At that moment, I cruelly realized that the fairy tales I heard in my childhood and the heroes I once admired were all fake. No brave prince would pull the princess who fell into suffering out of the abyss, not to mention that I was just an ordinary person. Beautiful dreams are carefully woven, but they are broken so tragically and so easily. Dai Yun's looked at Suyu's eyebrows without joy or sadness. Even though the other party's tone when telling the story was so flat, as if he was reading someone else's story. But it still made his mood become extremely solemn at this time. But suddenly, he saw a burst of light from her face. That kind of joy, and the faint shyness of a girl hidden under the joy, suddenly bloomed with amazing light in those eyes reflecting the sunset. Fortunately, I also have my own luck. The girl, bathed in the glow of the setting sun, laughed softly. It's true that fairy tales are deceptive, but there are always people who are willing to protect the remaining illusions, mend the broken dreams with an unstoppable posture, show the last beauty in front of your eyes, and lock the last light in your eyes for you. Fortunately, I waited for it. The girl lowered her head, with a smile on her lips, and murmured in a dark voice. Even if the light that broke through the darkness did not belong to her in the end. When she collapsed in the cold and hard dungeon, the girl thought countless times about what the light that came to save her would be like. Is it the same as the warm sun? Although it is dazzling, no one can leave it. Or is it a cold light like the moon? Although it is not as warm as the sun, it is still a bright light that illuminates the darkness. As long as you look up, you can let the gentle light penetrate into your eyes. But what the girl didn't expect was that the light that tore through the darkness and pulled her up from the abyss was not the scorching sun, nor the bright moon. It was as blue as the vast ocean. Mysterious and unfathomable. It easily made the evil intent that was ready to devour her retreat, saving her from the dire situation. It also made her realize that the gentle whispers she had heard in the dark cell and all the encouragement she had received were not illusions. They were not the proclamations of a dying person or the fantasies of a desperate person. It turned out that someone really was coming to save her. Chapter 570 Yi's Issue. The girl's whispering stopped there. But the story was far from over. The red sunlight that remained in the sky was only a tiny ray at this time. It was difficult to paint the sky bright, but in the end it was only a layer of dull color, and it had to proudly burn the clouds red. The night was coming. The rules of heaven and earth should be like this. The night is not fleeting, and the day is not eternal. They alternate and coexist. But suddenly, a violent energy fluctuation came from the east, attracting too many people's attention. In the martial arts field, disciples of different ages gathered together and looked to the east. They were curious about what was happening over there and which powerful people were fighting. One after another, powerful auras also awakened in the body sect, and in an instant they rushed to the east. This was equivalent to coming to the door. Although the body sect had vowed not to come out, it did not say that it could not resist foreign enemies. That crazy woman actually came here in person. Suyu looked far to the east, with a little surprise in her tone. She then looked at Dayun's. Aren't you going to take a look? Dayun's was about to say that he couldn't participate in that kind of commotion, but seeing Suyu's expression, he blurted out, is it related to me? That crazy woman seems to want to destroy the yin-yang soul refining abyss directly. With the current strength of the body sect, we can't defeat her. If you don't go, Su Chen and I will have to take action, Suyu said with a smile. With just a few words, Dayun's basically guessed the identity of the crazy woman mentioned by Suyu. Without hesitating for too long, he nodded and said, okay, I'll go over and take a look. Suyu looked at him in surprise, but then smiled and said, okay, I'll leave it to you. She also patted Dayun's on the shoulder and said, thank you for listening to my story, but unfortunately I don't remember to invite you later. If I come out, I'll tell you next time. Dayun's also smiled politely in return. He noticed that she had something to say, but he didn't agree or refuse. He flew up directly, flapped his wings of the Ice and Fire Dragon King, and flew quickly to the east. At this moment, the sunlight in the sky completely sank into the horizon, and the world was left with only darkness. Sitting on the eaves, Suyu, who was swinging her legs leisurely, looked a little transparent at this time. Energy surged, and the figure of another man condensed beside her. What did you say to him? Why didn't I hear anything? Suyu glanced at him, suppressed the thought of wanting to confront him, and curled the corners of her lips slightly, obviously in a very good mood. Nothing. It's just that don't you think we have been here for too long? But it's not time yet. Su Chen was silent for a while. Give it a try. At worst I'll keep watching. If you push the coffin in advance, his consciousness may not be able to withstand the impact. After a long pause, Su Chen still chose to bring up the worst result. Don't have confidence in him? But don't you realize that his soul power is at the same level as the captain? You should pay more attention to yourself. After a long time, Su Chen threw out such a sentence. It was also a long time before Suyu nodded, okay, but then, she clenched her fists, tilted her head and looked at Su Chen with a smile. Then let's talk in detail about what you did to me today. How about it, Su Chen? Disgusting place. High in the sky, a woman in blood-stained clothes stood quietly here, and a blood-red tower was floating behind her. She looked a little thin, but her once exquisite appearance could still be vaguely seen. Her voice was a little hoarse, but it had a pleasant magnetic feeling, and it seemed to contain a special ability to bewitch. At this time, the woman lowered her eyes and stared at the huge valley below, with a sinister and fierce expression on her face. Senior Yizishu, what are you doing here in my body sect? A heavy dark green light flashed, and the head of the body sect, Dubu brought all the titled Douluo elders of the body sect to float in front of the woman, forming a confrontation with her. The expressions of several elders of the body sect changed drastically because of the names said by Dubu, and some of them cast their fearful eyes on the blood-colored tower behind the woman. Yizishu, the death god Douluo, one of the only 3 extreme Daoluos in the world, was as famous as the black and white twin holy dragons, Dragon God Douluo Moon En, and Dragon Emperor Douluo Long Zioeo. It was hard for people not to think too much about such a being who had come to their body sect at this time. Yizishu looked coldly at Dubu who was in the front. The death god tower floating behind him moved slightly. The next second, a bloodlight suddenly shot towards Douluo. Douluo's face changed, and he dodged away in an instant, barely avoiding the bloodlight that was fatal. When he appeared again, his expression was extremely ugly. He looked at Yizishu and said in a deep voice, "Senior, are you going to go to war with my body sect?" Yizishu suddenly laughed out loud and said, "You can survive under my death god's light. Good, now I allow you to talk to me face to face." Douluo's face was dark, and the other titled Douluo elders also looked ugly. This crazy woman. "Oh, I remember you seemed to ask me what I was doing here." Yizishu raised her hand, gently rubbed her chin with her blood-red hook-like nails, and said in a thoughtful manner, "I am not here to kill you today, I just want you to hand over the boy with extreme darkness." But, she suddenly looked at the valley below with great disgust. "I didn't expect to encounter the disgusting God's landing land in your body sect, so I decided to kill all of you first, and then go and catch that boy back." Her tone was so flat that it seemed like she was talking about something very ordinary. At this time, Douluo and a group of elders also noticed that there was a huge gap above the valley below. It seemed that it was caused by the Death God Tower behind Yizishu, and the previous huge energy fluctuations should also be caused by this. Douluo's eyes condensed, and his aura rose steadily. "Senior, you keep saying that you want to kill my body sect, are you really so confident?" Yizishu laughed hysterically again. "Look at your so-called body sect, can you find someone who can fight me for 2 moves? What body martial spirit? But they are just a bunch of trash that can't stand a single blow. In this case, please give me some advice." A dazzling dark green light burst out from Douluo's body, and his aura rose to the peak. Not only that, there was even a faint silver light in the dark green, which made Yizishu's face show a little fear. Douluo stared at Yizishu, his tone was extremely cold. At the same time, the elders behind him also released their martial spirits, ready to fight at any time. Yizishu sneered, "Then you better be careful, because my advice can kill people." As soon as she finished speaking, a silent humming sounded between the sky and the earth. In the blink of an eye, the blood-red and dark green colors occupied half of the sky respectively. At a height that was invisible to human eyes, the two figures collided several times, each time creating a terrifying momentum, and the residual power could easily kill soul emperors and soul kings. Even the titled Douluo elders of the body sect had to lower their flying altitude to avoid being affected by the battle in the sky. Even though they had already achieved titled Douluo, and there were even some super Douluo among them, they had no room to intervene in the face of a battle of this level. Moreover, they did not have much confidence in Douluo. Although there was only one level difference between level 99 and level 98, this one level could make a world of difference. Today is the author who updates on time and twice a day. Yes, everything is done, the author is completely free. Beep beep, spread the flowers. In the next chapter, the threesome mentioned a few chapters ago should show up. Have any friends guessed their identities? Dodge, thank you to all the friends who voted for recommendations. See you tomorrow. Chapter 571 The demonic tiger shows its might for the first time. The battle in the sky did not last too long, and ended with a dark green meteor falling from above. The meteor with a dark green tail flame was Douluo. When he was caught by other elders in the air and stabilized, blood could be seen on the corners of his mouth, his arms were twisted abnormally, and his clothes were torn to varying degrees, looking very embarrassed. Yizishu also slowly descended from the sky at this time, and the Death God Tower that kept emitting a terrifying aura was still floating behind her. In the battle just now, she did not even use this 10th level soul guide. With just her powerful cultivation, she easily suppressed Douluo. Before this, Douluo had never really fought with the extreme Douluo. Today was the first time he realized how desperate the gap between that level was. He looked at Yizishu with a somewhat dejected and bleak look. He swallowed hard, but still laughed out loud. Even though he had just laughed twice, the sound turned into an unstoppable cough. Is this the method of the extreme Douluo? Ho ha, good, it's really good. He waved his arms, and the whole body surged with dark green light again. Not only did he directly straighten his dislocated and twisted arms, but he also pushed several elders of the body sect around him far away. But even if you are extreme Douluo, if you dare to offend my body sect, you must be prepared for death or injury. In the old man's heroic laughter, the dark green light surged again. This time, the dark green light began to gradually turn into gold. And the old man's body, in the dazzling golden color, suddenly expanded to a height of hundreds of meters. At the same time, The soul power on the old man began to rotate rapidly, emitting extremely violent fluctuations, until a vortex containing terrifying power formed in the sky. Yi Zishu's eyes condensed, and the death god tower behind him began to light up with a tragic white light. It seemed that countless wronged souls were howling in pain. "You actually want to self-destruct your soul core and fight me to the death?" The old man's loud voice echoed between heaven and earth. "I said that even if you are an extreme Douluo, if you dare to offend my body sect, even if you risk my life, I will eliminate the threat for my disciples." Yi Zishu shouted coldly, "Don't overestimate your ability." The next second, the pale light condensed on the top of the death god tower was about to shoot towards the huge body of Douluo. But at this moment, a young man suddenly broke into the battlefield of the world's strongest. Along with the young man's figure, there was also the young man's roar. Wait a minute, the aura emanating from the young man was completely incomparable to anyone present, but he was surrounded by 5 blood-red soul rings. Even in the space condensed under the pressure of the extreme Douluo, he could come and go freely. Looking closely, it turned out that it was a bit of evil gray, black, and white light that protected the boy's whole body, protecting him from the influence of the power of the extreme Douluo. And the boy who broke into the battlefield was none other than Daiyun's who came. He stood in the center of the blood-red and dark green colors, and the light around him actually supported a small gray-white space in the two majestic forces. Although small, it cannot be ignored. After seeing Daiyun's figure, Douluo, who was still ready to die, looked as if he was quietly relieved. However, his figure was still tall and towering, and he had no intention of removing his martial soul body. He was still afraid of Yi Zishu, who was not far away. For him, as long as someone could show up at this time, no matter who that person was, the result would be good. Because that must mean that the power belonging to that senior would never stand idly by. Yi Zishu was also looking at Daiyun, who suddenly broke in at this time, looking at him with eyes full of interest. "Are you the boy with extreme darkness?" Daiyun relied on the 2 pairs of wings behind him to hover in the sky at such a high altitude, and King Gaia's power was also secretly supporting him, otherwise he would never be able to break into the battle of the extreme Douluo level as a soul king. He looked at the blood-stained woman in front of him, who was full of evil spirits and resentment, took a deep breath, bowed with both hands and said respectfully, "Meet His Majesty the Death God Douluo. The junior Daiyun greets you, Senior Yi. I wonder if you can give Teacher Long Xiaoyo a little face and let the body set go." "Oh," Yi Zishu laughed, and the meaning of inquiry in her eyes became stronger. "Teacher? When did Long Xiaoyo accept an apprentice? Why don't I know? Or are you impersonating his name?" At the end of her words, the momentum on her body suddenly changed, and she condensed into countless sharp needles and stabbed at Daiyun's, which was very abrupt and caught people off guard. Daiyun's expression condensed, and his eyes became visible. The 1st, 3rd, and 5th soul rings of the 5 blood-red soul rings surrounding his body lit up almost at the same time. The 3 enhanced soul skills of the God-eating evil eye white demon tiger came from the 200,000-year-old dark demon evil god tiger and the 400,000-year-old emperor golden tiger. The 1st soul skill, the evil god body barrier. The 3rd soul skill, the dark demon evil god transformation. The 5th soul skill, the demon tiger golden body. In an instant, the 3 soul skills were added to Daiyun's body, and his body quickly rose and expanded. The originally tight-fitting top clothes exploded into powder. The muscular upper body was covered with evil gray-black tiger stripes, and there even seemed to be gray-white hair coming out from under the skin. On the forehead, the word King and the 3-pointed crown above the word King seemed to begin to release a faint light. At the same time, the sharp needles formed by the pure momentum of the ultimate Douluo pierced Daiyun's body, making a series of clanging sounds of metal and iron. It was visible to the naked eye that Daiyun's entire body was stained with a layer of dark gold, and it was this dark gold color that helped him block the probing attack from the ultimate Douluo. Seeing this, Yi Zishu was not angry, but laughed sharply. "Not bad, kid, even my martial soul is suppressed. You have 5 100,000-year-old ultimate dark martial souls. Good, good, no wonder my child wants you so much." Daiyun did not say any more extra words, took out a black dragon-shaped rune from the storage soul guide, and repeated, "Senior, please give me some face and let the body set go." But after a pause, he added, "Senior, didn't you come to arrest me? As long as you can let the body sect go today, after I finish dealing with the body sect, I will immediately find you and put you under your name." Yi Zishu also saw the rune in Daiyun's hand and knew that the rune was from Long Xiaoyo. In this way, Yuns was not lying to her when he said he was Long Xiaoyao's disciple. She smiled and said, "Do you know that you are the first person who dares to negotiate with me in all these years? But for Long Xiaoyao's sake, I will agree to you today." Yuns immediately cupped his hands and bowed, "Thank you for your mercy, senior." Then he turned around and winked at Dubusi, who was behind him. Dubusi looked at him and nodded slightly. His huge body began to shrink until it returned to its original shape. Then he turned around and flew away with the elders of the body sect. The author finally wrote about Yuns's explosion. Chapter 572 Rampage. Yuns planned to fly back to the body sect after them. After all, she still had feelings for Long Xiaoyao. With him as the rear guard, Yi Zishu should not suddenly regret it, right? Of course, he would not be so naive to think that he was safe. Yi Zishu had already become crazy when she became an evil soul master. When dealing with lunatics, never try to figure out their thoughts, and never expect their words to be credible. But he did not dare to do anything else now, for fear of accidentally irritating Yi Zishu. If that happened, the body sect might be finished today. Therefore, even though he knew that exposing his back to the extreme Douluo without any defense was completely the same as giving up his life, Yuns could only leave as soon as possible. When rushing all the way from the body sect, Yuns had performed several possible situations in his mind. He had a psychological expectation that Yi Zishu would regret it, and he had several plans to deal with it. But he did not expect that Yi Zishu's attack would come so suddenly and so quickly. Even the first move was an absolute killer. When King Gaia's warning sounded, the cold feeling of death had already spread throughout his body. The blood-red light of death had condensed countless wronged souls, and the thousands of miserable howls in it almost cut his flesh. From the moment his body was engulfed by the light of death, Yuns's mind was completely frozen. For a few seconds, he seemed to have completely lost his perception of the outside world, just staring blankly at the remaining bloodlight in front of him, and couldn't figure out what it was. It was not until the imprisoned time began to flow again that his already stiff body felt the fear of death again. Go, go! King Gaia's low and hoarse cry of pain sounded in his mind, and he seemed to be trying his best to suppress something. Elder King Gaia, the power of the contract in his body clearly conveyed King Gaia's current situation to Yuns, and that made his mind go blank in an instant. "Well, you actually blocked my light of death?" Yi Zishu's surprised voice came from behind. That magnetic voice sounded quite disgusting at this moment. "It seems that I have underestimated you. However, this is the end." Yi Zishu's hysterical laughter rang in his ears. "I have the strength to capture you immediately. Why must I follow your conditions? And Long Xiaoyao? He clearly promised to be with me forever and promised not to deceive me. But I didn't know that he accepted you as his disciple. Ha 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 ha! You are a heartless man. You are all heartless. You all must die." The screams of countless wronged souls rang out from the high tower of the god of death, and the desperate bloodlight of death condensed again on the sharp spire. Go! In his mind, the young man's low and hoarse roar finally returned to silence and dissipated in loneliness. And the power of the contract that had always been easily detected suddenly seemed to be cut off by someone. He only felt a buzzing in his head, as if something suddenly cracked, and with it, there was boundless rage. A roar, accompanied by a tiger roar that resounded through the sky. The tiger-striped boy suddenly turned around in the air, and the 5 blood-colored soul rings around him flashed violently like crazy. The azure iris with double pupils suddenly melted until the whole pair of eyes were stained with black like ink. The evil intention spread from the boy's majestic body, and it actually shook the Death Tower. "What?" In Yi Zishu's doubtful voice, the bloodlight on the top of the Death Tower no longer brewed, but immediately shot out, about to swallow the boy again. The gray-white color rose rapidly before the bloodlight came. The boy, whose mind was no longer clear, suddenly opened a rose-gold vertical eye in the center of the king character on his forehead. The strange eyes were full of anger, and they stared at Yi Zishu's figure from a distance through the bloodlight. As the strange vertical eye opened, a pair of silver eyes appeared behind the boy, staring at Yi Zishu with hatred together with a vertical eyesight. There was also an extremely thick darkness that erupted from the boy at the same time. The darkness directly engulfed the blood color, and it did not stop until it spread out for hundreds of meters. At a glance, it was as if a dark hole was dug out of thin air in the sky. At the edge of the black cave, the distorted space could be vaguely seen. The speed of the black spreading was extremely fast. Even Yi Zishu, who is an extreme Douluo, could not escape. He could only disappear into the unfathomable darkness together with the light of death that was engulfed. Douluo and the elders of the body sect turned around at the same time when Yizishu suddenly changed his mind and attacked Daiyuns, releasing their martial spirits to save Daiyuns. But their speed could not catch up with the speed of the bloody light of death engulfing Daiyuns. They could only watch Daiyuns disappear in the bloodlight and appear intact again. Then, there were the scenes of Daiyuns' sudden explosion. In these few short seconds, too many things happened that they could not understand. They didn't know why Daiyuns survived the light of the god of death, nor did they know what was going on with the darkness that spread for hundreds of miles and looked like a ball and a hole. But they were all members of the body sect, and they had all awakened their martial souls for the second time. Naturally, they all saw the silver-white eyes that suddenly flashed behind the boy. "Is that the second awakening of the silver-level martial soul of the body?" an elder exclaimed. Douluo looked at the darkness in front of him, which was twisted at the edge and seemed to be swallowing up all the light around him, and made up his mind, "Who'll go in with me to rescue Daiyuns? Twin martial souls, extreme darkness, and silver-level awakening of the body martial soul. This boy is extremely talented. In time, he will be able to stand on the top of this world and be the best in our body sect. We must not watch him perish here at this time, even if it costs us our lives." The members of the body sect are not only powerful, but also extremely protective of their shortcomings. At this time, there is no coward. The elders petitioned to go into the darkness in front of them with Douluo to save Daiyuns. "Okay, Douluo, didn't make a mistake," Douluo said in a deep voice, "but this trip is dangerous, and my body sect cannot be left unattended. Old 7, the body sect will be handed over to you in the future." The seventh elder who was named looked sad and unwilling, but in the current situation, he had to make sacrifices. He just bowed his hands and bowed deeply. "Yes." Douluo then laughed and turned around, leading a group of elders to fly towards the darkness in front of them. "Daiyuns, I'm here to help you," he laughed heroically, and his body turned into a heavy dark green light, flying into the deep space like a meteor, flying into the darkness. All the elders did the same thing at this time. All of them were shining with light, and they were about to rush into the unknown darkness. But the faint, pink mist, at some point, quietly covered 100 miles of darkness, easily stopping the determined meteors. The strange voice that could not be distinguished between men and women was clearly transmitted to everyone's ears, with a playful charm, and smiled gently. "Shh, don't disturb them, they appear." The trio appears, although it's only a short sentence. Haven't you guessed who it is from this description? Daiyuns went berserk because King Gaia was injured. Funny, there should be a sequel here. Bushi, the author will leave for home tomorrow, so he may not be able to update on time, but there will be at least 2 chapters. I will be completely liberated after returning home, so let the update come more vigorously. Thanks to the friends who voted for the monthly ticket. See you tomorrow. Chapter 573 The Golden Generation. Douluo and a group of elders all turned their heads to look at the figure that suddenly appeared in the east. The person was shrouded in pink mist, as if wearing a thin gauze, making the seductive body full of seductiveness looming. A long red hair flew behind him, stirring the pink mist around, making the misty pink spread outward like a wave. He, or she? In short, it was impossible to tell whether it was a man or a woman. The person's face was also covered by a layer of light mist, and the face could not be seen clearly. The only more iconic thing was the crystal curved blade held in each hand, like a pair of crescents. When the figure appeared, even Douluo felt a burst of hair standing up, and felt a pressure no less than when facing Yizishu. Is this another extreme Douluo? Douluo's qualifications are already very old, almost the same generation as Mulao. But he still has never heard of any extreme Douluo on this Douluo continent who is the same as the one in front of him. Besides, there are only 3 extreme Douluos in the mainland, namely, Moon, Longzhou, and Yizishu. So where did this person suddenly come from? In an instant, many thoughts passed through Douluo's mind, but he still stood firmly in front of the darkness, looking at the figure, and said in a deep voice, "Why did the senior stop us?" The elders around him were also ready for battle at the same time. The figure still approached slowly, and said again in a charming voice that could not be distinguished between male and female, "Don't go in, we will be in peace." Douluo keenly noticed the change in the man's tone when he spoke this time. When the man spoke for the first time, his tone was playful, with a slight smile, and more feminine. But this time, The man's tone was more cold, which was very different from the previous time. This body Douluo also had a guess in his heart. Martial soul fusion skill. When he realized this, Dubusi's expression was finally not so solemn. There is still a big difference between the fighting power of one more extreme Douluo and the extreme Douluo formed by the fusion of the martial souls of two or even more titled Douluos. At least when facing the latter, Dubusi still has a lot of confidence. Oh, you actually figured it out. The man's voice became playful again, but let's do the same as before, and we will be safe if we don't go in. Yen, as the man shouted, Dubusi and others were shocked to find that the air around them suddenly became extremely hot. And then the overwhelming fire that ignited gave them a feeling that they were about to melt. Although the flames were fierce, they only burned and lingered near the darkness. After Dubusi and others retreated in a hurry, the flames did not continue to catch up, as if they were just trying to force them back. Dubusi's expression was uncertain, looking at another figure that suddenly appeared in the flames. It was a strong man wearing armor made entirely of flames, with long hair jumping unsteadily like flames. After controlling the flames to scare off Dubusi and the others, he did not make any other moves. He just stood quietly in the flames, looking at the people of the body sect calmly. At this time, a figure that could not be identified as a man or a woman also walked to the side of the sturdy man. The pink mist around him actually pushed away the fierce and terrifying flames, forming a scene where the flames and the mist were divided. The next moment, the figure surrounded by the mist was split into two. A man and a woman standing side by side. The man held a pair of moon blades, which were the same pair held by the figure surrounded by the mist before. The woman had an extremely beautiful face, and her every move was charming. The three stood in a row in front of the darkness. The stunning woman stood in the middle, and the sturdy man with flames all over his body and the man holding the moon blades were on her left and right. Looking at this scene, for some reason, Dubusi felt vaguely familiar, as if he had read a similar description in some classic book. And that book recorded the history of a long time ago. Dubusi's guess was correct. The figure surrounded by mist was indeed the fusion skill of the man and woman's martial soul. The three people in front of him had not reached the ultimate Douluo level, and should be the same level as him, level 98. Dubusi's face darkened and he asked, "Who are you?" The stunning woman standing in the middle raised her hand to cover her plump and attractive red lips, chuckled softly, and even bent her waist slightly with laughter. "Xianhu, Hulina," the man holding the moon blade, Ziyu, finally, the sturdy man with a blazing body, Yen. Suddenly, Dubusi seemed to feel a flash of inspiration hit his mind. He blurted out, "Who are you?" "Oh my," the woman interrupted Dubusi before he named their identities. Talking too much can kill people. She didn't know when her eyes turned pink and cast a sharp glance at Dubusi. At one glance, Dubusi, the original Douluo who could suppress Zhuanlao, felt a great threat of death. After calming down, Dubusi looked at the three people from the golden generation of the spirit hall 10,000 years ago who were still fighting, and said in a deep voice, "Daiyun should be one of yours, right? Are you just going to watch him die in there?" But what surprised Dubusi was that the three people did not show any special reaction. They just looked at each other for a while, and then laughed at the same time. The woman in the middle, Hulina, still said in her unique, lazy and bewitching voice, "That's not something you should worry about. Stay there and don't interfere, we won't do anything to you." Ziyu followed coldly. Yan, who had grown into a strong man, still stood aside silently, controlling the blazing flames, and did not say much. Dubusi looked at them, opened his mouth, and wanted to say something, but in the end he just snorted and gave up. Sect Master, an elder beside him asked him in a low voice. Dubusi said calmly, "It's okay. The appearance of these three people proves that Daiyuns will definitely not die here today, but that's the death Douluo. I don't believe in so-called miracles." Dubusi interrupted him, "But I believe in the arrangement of that senior." As soon as he finished speaking, the darkness suddenly moved. A tragic white light tore through the darkness at the edge and rushed out. But before it could continue to spread, its remaining power was exhausted. And the hole in the darkness torn by the white light was also healing rapidly. "It seems that there is a big movement inside." Hulina looked at the place where the gap appeared just now and said with a smile. Compared with the relaxed performance of the three people of the golden generation, the expressions of the people in the body sect were much more solemn. Even with Dubusi's guarantee, they still couldn't help but worry about the young man in the darkness. "Hetty, did any of you guess it right, Doge?" If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 574 The Realm of Lightless Silence. As the master of the Death God Tower and the manipulator of the Light of Death, Yi Zishu was probably the only one who could clearly feel what happened when the deep darkness erupted from Dai Yun's. When being stared at by the rose-gold vertical eye, even Yi Zishu, who was at the level of extreme Douluo, felt that everything about her was slowed down. Thinking, soul power, and even the operation of the two soul rings in her body became extremely slow in the sight of the rose-gold vertical eye. Even when the Light of Death was about to hit Dai Yun's, everything was almost still. The power of stillness was too strong, and even she had no way to dodge it, and then she was swallowed up by the darkness that suddenly erupted. The Light of Death released by the Death God Tower disappeared without a trace at the moment when the boundless darkness appeared, just like a drop in the ocean. And when Yi Zishu herself was swallowed by the darkness, she was also horrified to find that her vision and hearing had completely disappeared in the darkness. No matter how hard she tried to circulate her soul power, the blood light on her body could only flicker within a range of less than 3 meters around her body, and was even constantly affected by an inexplicable tearing force in the darkness, becoming erratic, like a candle flame swaying in the wind, which could go out at any time. She also tried to release her mental power to sense the surroundings, but the same situation as her soul power occurred. The majestic mental power could only work within a range of less than 3 meters around her body. Beyond that, nothing could be sensed. It seemed that there was only unfathomable darkness here. Yi Zishu had seen similar methods before. Long Xiaoyao had a dark and silent domain type soul skill. When you are in the world of that domain, you will feel the same silence as now. But even Long Xiaoyao's domain cannot completely deprive her of her vision and hearing like now. She almost had to use all her skills to grab a bright area in this domain. Even as an evil soul master, Yi Zishu has never been so eager for light as she is now. After all, he is an extreme Douluo, so he has the necessary vision. Long Xiaoyao's Dark Holy Dragon Martial Soul is already a very powerful Dark Attribute Martial Soul, which can compete with the current number 1 fierce beast, the Golden-Eyed Black Dragon King. But whether it is Long Xiaoyao or the Golden-Eyed Black Dragon King, the level of darkness they possess is not as good as that of the boy called Dai Yun's now. Because Dai Yun's has the strongest darkness, the ultimate darkness. If the extreme of ice is ultra-low temperature, then what should the extreme of darkness look like? Perhaps it is just like now. The lightless and silent domain. Yi Zishu is not sure how long Dai Yun's can maintain such a domain, but her intuition tells her that if she continues to stay in this lightless and silent domain, she will definitely get into big trouble. Because at this moment, she suddenly realized one thing: her soul core can no longer help her absorb the energy of heaven and earth on her own, as if all the rules of the outside world have been cut off in this domain. Not being able to absorb the energy of heaven and earth means that her soul power can no longer be replenished all the time. Just maintaining the light less than 3 meters in front of her eyes had almost exhausted her. In this case, how long can she hold on here? Can't waste it. Yi Zishu made a quick decision, first trying to communicate with the power of space, wanting to get out of this lightless and silent domain directly. But failed. The power of space is still there, but it is no longer under her control. Someone has a higher degree of control over space than her. She may try to regain some control and open a space door for herself to escape, but that will take a long time, and Yi Zishu is not sure if she can wait until then. In this way, there is only one last way left. Find Dai Yun's and kill him. Once Dai Yun's dies, the domain will naturally break without attack. As for the son that Zhongli Wu wants, so what? When Yi Zishu thought of Zhongli Wu, some disgusting disgust surged in her heart, and there was also endless rage. Although she was in a static state under the influence of some strange power when she was pulled into this lightless and silent domain, Yi Zishu still saw that Dai Yun's was no longer awake. If no one else broke into this domain later, then at this time, only she and Dai Yun's were in the domain. Her perception ability was limited in the domain, but Dai Yun's, as the master of the domain, would not have this problem. So Yi Zishu was sure that the boy who was no longer conscious would take the initiative to attack her. Yi Zishu glanced at the Death God Tower floating behind her. Fortunately, this level 10 soul guide was still there. As long as Dai Yun's dared to come, She would be sure to kill Daiyun's with one blow. Even though Daiyun's extreme dark domain surprised her, the gap in strength was still there. After all, it was difficult for a Soul King to pose any threat to the extreme Douluo. But just as Daiyun's did not expect her regretful attack to come so suddenly, Yuzishu did not expect that the boy's attack would come so suddenly and so overestimated his own ability. Almost under her eyes, a pair of hands covered with dark tiger stripes stretched out towards her neck. Under the soul power light around her, the dark tiger pattern was still faintly flashing with an evil brilliance. When the hands appeared, the soul power light that could originally be radiated to nearly 3 meters around her body was suddenly suppressed and bent within a range of less than half a meter around Yuzishu, only illuminating the 2 forearms of the figure that suddenly attacked. It seemed that the figure outside the light was born to swallow all the light, so when he arrived, even the glory of the extreme Douluo would dim. Yuzishu snorted coldly, without dodging, raised his hands and slapped the tiger pattern arms that were pinching his neck, firmly grasping the opponent's wrist, and the blood-red, sharp nails pierced deeply into the flesh, and he was actually trying to cut off his palm directly. Blood flowed from the hideous wound, but at the same time, the tiger pattern arms also grabbed Yuzishu's hands. Yuzishu's originally cold and vicious look was instantly filled with horror. Because at the moment when she was caught by the tiger pattern arm, she actually felt that the soul power, martial spirit, and her unrivaled power in her body all disappeared without a trace. "What is this?" Shocked, she screamed and struggled to break free from the grip of the hands, while quickly retreating backwards, watching the arms disappear into the darkness and doubt. At that moment, it seemed that she had turned back into an ordinary person with no power to tie a chicken. The feeling of powerlessness made her no longer have any thoughts of killing Daiyun's. At this time, she just wanted to escape quickly. Yes, escape. Yuzishu gritted her teeth tightly, and her face was covered with hideous blue veins. She raised her hand and waved, and the death tower behind her suddenly shot out a tragic white light in the direction where the arms finally disappeared. The complete form of the light of the god of death. The white light mixed with the wailing of countless wronged souls pierced directly into the deep darkness until it tore a hole in the darkness and the distance, allowing the weak starlight outside to shine in again. Seeing this scene, Yuzishu was immediately ecstatic. Yes, no matter how strange this lightless and silent realm is, it is ultimately just a trick used by a small soul king. As long as there is a powerful enough attack, it is completely capable of tearing this realm apart. The Death Tower is not Yuzishu's own power. It is a terrifying level 10 soul guide. Most of the time, Yuzishu doesn't even need to actively charge it. It can gather energy by itself and then launch the light of the god of death that is enough to tear the realm apart. Yuzishu seized the opportunity and wanted to rush out of this realm before the gap torn by the light of the god of death closed again. She went all out at a very fast speed, and she was about to reach the gap in the blink of an eye. But suddenly, she found that the exit that was originally close at hand suddenly became extremely far away. No matter how much she accelerated, she couldn't get closer even a little bit. What's going on? At this moment, even Yuzishu had to admit that too many things that she couldn't understand had happened in this short period of time. Yuzishu watched the gap close up, and in a rage, she was about to launch the light of death again. But at this moment, the tiger-striped hands that had been hidden in the darkness before quietly stretched out towards her neck again. And this time, when Yuzishu was rushing forward at full speed and unable to stop, Yuzishu almost crashed into those arms. Looking for death, Yuzishu screamed in shock and anger, but she could only raise her hands to protect her neck. The death tower behind her suddenly shot out a blood-red light of death. In a trance, she saw the strange rose-gold vertical eye again, casting a cold glance at her. That strange power enveloped her body again, making everything strangely still, including the bloodlight that was about to be emitted from the death tower behind her. The arms covered with dark tiger stripes were not affected by the still power, and quietly grasped the arms that Yuzishu protected in front of her neck. Yuzishu once again felt that all the power had disappeared. The next moment, in the dark realm, there was an extremely crisp sound of bone fracture. The arms of the extreme Douluo were easily broken by the tiger-patterned arms. The author mentioned before that everyone would guess how Daiyun's suppression would be used. Now it is equivalent to revealing it, and it has been written in a chapter of nearly 3,000 words. I wonder if any of the friends who have watched the mysterious revival have noticed that in this dark realm, there is an extremely terrifying evil ghost wandering. As long as the number of ghosts around him does not exceed him, he will be killed instantly. and the ability he possesses is to suppress an evil ghost without any solution. Once the suppression is successful, the number of evil ghosts he suppresses will increase accordingly, until it fully grows into an unsolvable supernatural event. Yes, it is a ghost messenger. This setting is so good, haha. See you tomorrow. The author has arrived home safely, and will start updating with full effort tomorrow. Oh yeah, I hope that the friends who follow the update will give more likes. Casting JPG. Chapter 575, the so-called whetstone. Yi Zishu never thought that she would have such an embarrassing day. The two broken arms had long been hanging powerlessly on both sides of the body, showing a horrible distortion. The intense pain was like a wave that stimulated her nerves, and even made her tremble slightly. Coincidentally, at this moment, the strange static power also disappeared. She looked at the figure in front of her with resentment, and the bloodlight condensed on the death tower behind her suddenly turned white and was fired without explanation. Yi Zishu and Dai Yun's were very close, so the complete light of the death god rushed to Dai Yun's eyes in an instant, and it was about to swallow him completely. But before that, a figure with a monstrous malice all over his body appeared out of thin air and blocked Dai Yun's. In the darkness, Yi Zishu only saw a pair of tiger eyes stained red by blood and heard a cold and vicious low tiger roar. The incomprehensible power spread, and the white light of the god of death suddenly stopped when it touched the chest of the figure, and then miraculously began to turn back, as if it was starting to retreat. Yi Zishu watched all this happen in horror, until the light of the god of death disappeared at the top of the tower of the god of death. Then, this powerful level 10 soul guide seemed to have been attacked by something inexplicable, and the blood-red tower body trembled fiercely. It was visible to the naked eye that it had become much older and more dilapidated, and finally a crack appeared on it. Dai Yun's, who was protected by the figure who suddenly appeared behind him, paused when he was about to move, and his completely dark eyes seemed to have regained a brief clarity. Elder Kingaya, when the name came out, the darkness around him trembled for a moment, and then began to dissipate rapidly. Kingaya, with bloodshot eyes and dark tiger stripes on his face, turned and looked at Dai Yun's. His breath was unstable, and he seemed to be trying his best to suppress something. The blood-red eyes were full of brutality and madness, and the only remaining clarity was struggling against it painfully. I need time to recover, be careful. His voice was already hoarse, and his words became mechanical again because he had to suppress the unreasonable brutality in his heart. Okay, the darkness completely dissipated at this time, and the scene outside became clear again. How could Yi Zishu miss this opportunity? He immediately opened the space channel and took the death tower into it, disappearing in an instant. Kingaya, who was full of brutality and madness, also turned into a dark shadow, merged into Dai Yun's body, and was silent. In the sky, the boy was shirtless, and the dark tiger stripes all over his body began to fade rapidly, and the evil aura on his body also quickly gathered and dissipated. The dark color in his eyes was like a dispelled fog, gradually disappearing, and his eyes, which were originally as blue as the sky, reappeared. His chest was heaving violently, and he was exhausted. Blood was still dripping from his wrists, and he seemed extremely weak. Until he had no more strength to maintain his martial spirit, he and the two pairs of wings behind him fell to the ground. The moment the boy fainted from exhaustion, Dubusi rushed to catch him. The master of the main body sect looked at the place where Yi Zishu disappeared, and then looked at the place where the three people of the golden generation stood before. He was very curious about what happened in the dark area that made an extreme Douluo choose to escape. A few minutes ago, when the dark area began to fluctuate and began to disappear, the three people of the golden generation immediately fled, just as suddenly as they came, leaving everyone in the main body set confused. When the darkness that spread over 100 miles completely dissipated, Dubusi and others saw Yi Zishu fleeing quickly, and Dai Yun's floating in the air like a god of war. Although they didn't know many things today, since the boy was still alive, it meant one thing. Dai Yun's won. Thousands of miles away, Yi Zishu walked out of the space gate in a rather embarrassed manner. Her hair was messy, her expression was distorted, and her arms drooped weakly beside her. With both hands broken, she couldn't even exert any strength to reconnect the broken bones, so she could only find someone to treat her as soon as possible. The soul power in her body was also consumed too much, and she needed to rest temporarily. But before she could take a good breath, a faint pink mist had quietly filled the forest where she was hiding. Yi Zishu's eyes condensed, and the martial soul blood soul puppet was released, and 9 top-level soul rings, 6 black and 3 red, rose from her feet. She stared at one direction, her face full of resentment. The sound of footsteps crushing fallen leaves and dead branches sounded in the forest, not hurried or slow, and very leisurely. When the enchanting figure walked out of the already majestic pink mist, the resentment and unwillingness on Yizishu's face reached its peak. It's you. All this is related to the relationship with that guy named Tang Liu. He's using me again, she screamed in a low and hoarse voice. Yao Mei looked at her indifferently, and a voice that couldn't be distinguished between men and women sounded, Yizishu, you've crossed the line. Yizishu sneered, why, did he ask you lackeys to kill me? So what? I actually realized a long time ago that I might have fallen into his calculations again this time, so I took advantage of the kid named Dai Yun's inability to react and wanted to kill him with the light of death. Unfortunately, I didn't expect that the kid was actually protected by masters, and the means he had emerged in an endless stream, which made me feel tricky. Although it was only a little short in the end, I want to use today's events to tell him not to think that he can use me easily. Even if I can't kill him, I will kill the people around him. At least, I have to bite off a piece of meat from the people he cherishes. She laughed wildly as she spoke, and her mental state seemed quite unstable. Today's Dai Yun's is a warning. He was lucky enough to survive once, but can he survive a second time? Now, Tang Liu must be very angry. He certainly didn't expect that the chess piece in his hand would cut his hand one day. Ho ha, otherwise why would he send you to kill me now? Yao Mei calmly looked at Yizishu, who was almost laughing madly, and said lightly, we won't kill you. Yizishu was still laughing crazily, but Yao Mei didn't care whether she heard it clearly or not, and just continued to speak at her own pace. He knows that you can't help but kill Dai Yun's, and knows that you might use this to resist and threaten him. But he doesn't care. Because this opportunity is nothing more than a good whetstone for Dai Yun's. It just so happens that because of the pressure you gave, Dai Yun's not only awakened his martial soul for the second time, but also mastered the Eye of Destiny that integrated time, and his talent for extreme darkness was also developed. The most important thing is that the evil heart has been awakened to a large extent because of you. Even in his estimation, it is a very good result. Yizishu's shrill laughter gradually stopped. You thought that what you did was to resist him, but you never understood that what you thought and felt had already been his will. Just like people cannot defy fate, cannot avoid time, and can only accept cause and effect. He said, the only place where you crossed the line and everything that was already destined was to hurt King Gaia. Although this was expected, it is still a little hard to accept. So you will disappear for a while, until Dai Yun's needs the grindstone again. Yao Mei was like a narrator, reading out the judgment of Yizishu in a calm manner. After that, there was no more conversation between them, only a long period of silence. I don't accept it. After a long silence, Yizishu could only weakly spit out these 3 words. If you don't accept it, get out. Yan's tall figure suddenly appeared behind her, and his broad palm covered with terrifying flames rested on Yizishu's head. The next moment, in the flames that suddenly turned blue, Yizishu's figure disappeared silently. After sending Yizishu away, Yan and the demon opposite looked at each other. After a while, the demon said dissatisfiedly, isn't it too sudden? Yan smiled innocently, she is so long-winded, and her laughter is so noisy. Quotation mark. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.